CEO's life is all about business, until he discovers the waitress he once cherished had his child in secret. In that moment, he realizes he's not just a father. He's falling in love all over again. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The midday sunlight filtered through the broad windows of the bustling downtown cafe, painting the sleek tables with patches of warmth. The place was alive with murmured conversations, the clang of silverware, and the occasional aroma of fresh bread wafting from the open kitchen. From behind the counter, Lily balanced dishes with expert grace, her dark ponytail swaying as she darted from table to table. No one watching her calm efficiency would have suspected the turmoil roiling beneath her polite smiles. That day, the atmosphere was charged in a subtle but palpable way. Regular patrons arrived expecting the usual daily specials, oblivious to the storm about to unfold. Seated by the corner window was a figure who commanded attention simply by existing: Dylan Harrington, the charismatic CEO of Harrington Innovations. A man known for his keen intellect, formidable negotiation skills, and a rumored mysterious personal life. In that moment, he looked somewhat out of place among the casual customers and the relaxed vibe of the cafe. His tailored suit, crisp shirt, and gleaming watch radiated wealth and influence. It was not every day that a figure of such stature chose to eat among the locals. He hadn't planned to be there. A late-morning meeting had concluded ahead of schedule, leaving him an unexpected gap in the day. Without giving it much thought, he told his driver to stop at the cafe he'd noticed in passing. The discreet sign and warm glow beckoned him. Perhaps, he thought, a tranquil, unassuming spot would allow him to gather himself before the next round of endless demands. He settled at a small table next to the window, anticipating a quick sandwich and a quiet moment with his phone. He did not expect his entire life to twist on a single overheard conversation. Lily approached him with a menu and a soft smile. She recognized Dylan. It would have been difficult not to, given his appearances on business magazines and local news segments, but she tried not to let that unnerve her. "Welcome," she said in a voice that betrayed no hint of her surprise. "Can I get you something to drink while you decide?" He looked up from his phone, a faint frown giving way to mild curiosity. "Just coffee for now," he said, scanning the menu that Lily had handed over with a practiced flourish. She gave a small nod and left, rushing off to another table that had just signaled for their check. Meanwhile, Dylan's gaze drifted to the small details around him: the worn wood of the floor, the scuff marks beneath the chair legs, the gentle hum of the ceiling fan overhead. From the corner of his eye, he glimpsed Lily returning to the bar area, pouring a dark roast for him, her posture momentarily stiffening as she placed the pot aside to take a call on her cell phone. He couldn't help but catch a snippet of her whisper. "I know, sweetheart. We'll figure this out, okay? Don't worry. Mommy will make it right. I promise." The words were hushed, yet the strain in her tone made Dylan shift in his seat. It was not the usual personal phone call you might overhear in a cafe. Something about the emotion in Lily's voice made him pay closer attention, though he quickly caught himself. He was not one to eavesdrop on his employees or on strangers. Respecting boundaries had always been part of his business code. And yet, something about Lily's quiet desperation had him on alert. As Lily ended the call, she drew a shaky breath, then forced a determined expression onto her face. With that same quiet grace, she carried Dylan's coffee cup over to his table, placing it gently before him. "Your coffee, sir. Have you decided what you'd like to eat?" Her voice was pleasant enough, but he could see the lingering shadows in her eyes. Before he could respond, she was summoned across the room to address a minor spill. Dylan watched her go, unsettled by the subtle tension he had witnessed in her. Shrugging off the feeling, he turned to stare out the window, letting the steam from the coffee fill the silence. His mind wandered to the unfinished deals piling up at his office, and to the million other obligations that were never satisfied. Typically, those thoughts consumed him. But now, they felt distant. It was then that he heard it, another fragment of Lily's words, carried by a momentary lull in the cafe's noise. She was near the table behind him, comforting what sounded like a little girl. "Everything will be okay, sweetie. I promise." The child's sniffles were soft, and Lily's voice quivered with an empathy that betrayed something deeper than a mild upset. Then Lily's words caught him off guard. "Your daddy might not know right now, but he would love you if he ever realized the truth. I know he would." Dylan's grip on his coffee mug tightened. There was something faintly familiar about Lily's features. He was sure of it now. A flash of memory, a swirl of nights from years past. He blinked, letting rational thought settle him. Coincidence, perhaps, or just the typical illusions the mind conjures when you hear such an emotional story. He tried to dismiss it. That was, until he turned slightly in his seat and saw the child for the first time, peeking from behind Lily's apron as Lily knelt to wipe away the little girl's tears. In the child's innocent face, Dylan saw an echo, a pair of deep-set eyes tinted with an unmistakable shade, a chin that, if he dared to compare, was startlingly close to his own. Dylan felt the breath hitch in his throat. Could it be? He leaned back and forced himself to appear composed, though his heart thudded against his ribs. Memories crashed through him like thunderclaps. A college event where he had first noticed a quiet woman stitching costumes backstage, a corporate fundraiser from a few years back where, after too many introductions, he had stumbled upon a kind-hearted volunteer with captivating eyes. Bits of the puzzle started to crystallize in his mind, though he couldn't place precisely when or how he might have truly crossed Lily's path in a way that led to this. Trying to regain his composure, Dylan signaled for Lily. He needed an excuse to talk to her, to look more closely at her. She approached with a polite tilt of her head, though her brow creased with mild concern. "Yes, sir?" she asked softly. "Would you like to order lunch now?" He studied her more intently than one normally would. Her hair framed a delicate face with subtle features. She held herself with a dignified humility that made him think she didn't want to burden others with her struggles. After a breath, he found his voice. I'll try the lunch special," he said, though his mind was far from deciding on any meal. "Thank you." As Lily jotted his order, the little girl approached shyly, her eyes darting between Dylan and her mother. Lily's attempt to usher her daughter away was gentle but urgent, as though she feared the child might say something that couldn't be unsaid. Dylan's heart stirred with an uncharacteristic swirl of apprehension and curiosity, because in the girl's eyes he saw a spark, a reflection that felt unsettlingly like his own. "Sorry, she's just new here," Lily said hastily, offering a half-smile. She was waiting in the kitchen. "My friend usually helps watch her, but—" She trailed off, evidently not wanting to share too much of her personal situation. "It's all right," Dylan managed. "Kids have a way of wandering around." He tried to sound casual, but his mind roared with questions. When was the last time Lily and he had crossed paths? Did he truly have a child, a daughter, somewhere in this world without his knowledge? And what tragedy of misunderstandings must have led them to this unspoken standoff? Stepping away, Lily cradled the little girl's head protectively, guiding her toward the back of the cafe. Dylan, feeling an unfamiliar tightness in his chest, watched them retreat. The revelations colliding in his mind were almost overwhelming. He had built a fortress of success around him for years, priding himself on self-discipline, results, and an unbreakable shell. Yet one little girl's face, and the mention of a father who didn't know she existed, threatened to unravel everything he had ever known. Dylan wiped a thin sheen of perspiration from his brow, ignoring the phone buzzing in his pocket. The meltdown of a business deal seemed trivial now compared to the meltdown of his entire reality. He exhaled slowly, recalling faint moments from the past that might line up with this possibility. Could Lily have once been the same volunteer he'd met after a charity gala? He remembered fleeting laughter, a conversation under starry lights, a sudden closeness that might have faded too quickly. But then he'd been whisked off by corporate obligations. He was not a man who believed in coincidences. The world rarely dealt in them. In that moment, the cafe's noise seemed to fade into a hush, replaced by the drumbeat of his own heart. He needed answers. He needed confirmation. More than that, he needed to understand how it came to be that a waitress, this gentle, warm-hearted woman, had raised a child alone, quietly struggling, never breathing a word to him. And if indeed he was the father, how could he possibly atone for lost years? A swirl of guilt, confusion, and protectiveness welled inside him. Just then, Lily reappeared at the far side of the room, checking on another table. She moved with the same poised efficiency, but her eyes betrayed the secrets she carried. Unaware of his own unwavering stare, Dylan felt a silent vow crystallize. He would uncover the truth, no matter the consequences. Because if that little girl was truly his daughter, no corporate fortress could keep him away from her. And as he watched Lily's anxious expression, something deeper tugged at him, a longing he'd never allowed himself to feel, a love that, until this moment, he never knew existed within him. "Sir," Lily said again, passing by with an apologetic glance. "Sorry to keep you waiting. The lunch special will be right out." He nodded, speechless. For the first time in Dylan Harrington's carefully structured life, he realized he was on the brink of a revelation far more important than any business contract he had ever signed. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows of the cafe, ushering in the late afternoon rush. New customers arrived in chattering clusters, grateful to escape the chilly breeze outside. Yet inside Dylan Harrington's mind, time had nearly frozen. The revelation that Lily might have borne his child weighed on him like a presence he could not ignore. Every logical bone in his body urged restraint. He was in a public place. Confrontation now would be unwise. But his heart, so long quiet, began pounding with a vigor that demanded immediate answers. He took a slow sip of his coffee, its warmth barely penetrating the numbness of his hands. Lily reemerged from the kitchen, balancing a tray laden with steaming plates. She maneuvered around the tables with practiced ease, exchanging polite smiles and friendly words with the regulars. All the while, Dylan noticed her glancing anxiously toward the back corner where she had settled her little girl, as though ensuring the child stayed safe and out of trouble. He forced himself to watch, carefully piecing together details that might confirm his suspicions. The little girl, her name he soon heard was Mia, held a set of crayons and a coloring book that had clearly seen better days. There was a gentleness about Mia, a slightly shy tilt to her head, and a sweet curiosity whenever a stranger passed by. Dylan found himself wondering, if I had known, if I had been there for her from the start, how different would her life be? In the face of his relentless climb to success, it struck him that all he had achieved might pale in comparison to what he had missed. "Here you are," Lily said gently, placing a sandwich and side salad before him. Her eyes flickered across Dylan's face. He saw a flicker of recognition. Perhaps she realized that his unwavering gaze was more than just idle curiosity. She cleared her throat. "If you need anything else, please let me know." Her voice was cordial, but at the edges of her composure he sensed the slightest tremor. She turned to go, but Dylan couldn't stand the suspense. He reached out, touching her wrist lightly, an action so uncharacteristic of him that it startled them both. "Wait," he said, then lowered his voice. Do we know each other?" A flush crept up Lily's neck. She hesitated, a dozen unspoken truths dancing behind her eyes. "I serve so many customers. Maybe we crossed paths. Why do you ask?" The question hovered between them, crackling with tension. Dylan glanced at Mia, who sat a few tables away, absorbed in her coloring. He lowered his voice even more. "Because I feel like we might have met years ago, or maybe at some event?" Pain flickered across Lily's expression. She reclaimed her arm gently. "I'm sorry, sir," she said formally, "but if we had, I'm sure you would have remembered." Before he could press further, she slipped back into the swirl of cafe chatter, greeting a new table with a bright smile that looked almost forced. Dylan's throat felt tight. Could it be that he had once shared a moment of genuine closeness with Lily, something that had lingered in her life far longer than it had in his? The possibility sent guilt roiling through his chest. He frowned, remembering how easily the details of his personal connections often slipped away in the face of corporate demands. Could that negligence have led to a child growing up without a father? His phone buzzed on the table, his assistant calling to remind him of a meeting scheduled in less than an hour. Normally, he prided himself on punctuality. Today, he rejected the call. The entire world of boardrooms and negotiations seemed abruptly trivial. He had to be sure. Pushing his plate aside, Dylan reached into the inner pocket of his blazer, pulling out his wallet. Tucked inside was a small photograph of himself and his late mother, an image he rarely looked at. He studied the lines of his face, searching for traces he might see echoed in Mia. That was when a voice behind him nearly made him jump. "Mr. Harrington." It was one of Lily's co-workers, a middle-aged waiter with kind, inquisitive eyes. Dylan stuffed the photo away, turning with a polite nod. "Lily told me you might want your check soon, or perhaps coffee refills." Dylan exhaled, disappointment mixing with frustration. "Thank you," he managed. "Just the check, please." In truth, 100 questions simmered in his head, but the presence of another staff member reminded him that he had to tread carefully. This was Lily's workplace. It wasn't fair to corner her here. Moments later, Lily herself brought him the bill, carefully avoiding direct eye contact. He counted out enough cash to cover the meal 3 times over, then placed his business card on the table. Bold letters spelled out Dylan Harrington, CEO. He slid it toward her. "In case you ever need anything," he said quietly. Her eyes flicked from the card to his face. For an instant, he saw an emotion deeper than gratitude, something like fear mingled with longing. She curled her fingers around the card but said nothing, giving only a slight nod before walking away. Dylan gathered his suit jacket and left, the hum of the cafe's door chime echoing behind him. As he stepped onto the sidewalk, he realized his heart was pounding harder than it had in years. He felt unsteady, like the ground under him had shifted. By the next morning, Dylan's mind was resolute. He needed to confirm his suspicions without ambushing Lily or worse, scaring the child. Turning to the only resource he trusted, his personal investigator, he made a discreet request for a background check. He provided Lily's name, approximate age, and any details he recalled that might help, though those details were shamefully sparse. He couldn't bring himself to mention Mia in the official request. That small detail felt too personal, too delicate. But he was certain that if Lily had a significant secret, there might be glimpses of it documented somewhere. While waiting for any preliminary findings, Dylan sat in his executive suite, staring blankly at the skyline of the bustling city below. His sleek desk was clutter-free, aside from a single photograph of himself with 2 top-level executives, a token of the latest expansion he had spearheaded. Normally, that photo reminded him of a proud achievement. Today, it only reminded him how cold his life had become. Awards, recognition, the respect of his peers. What did it all matter if he had unknowingly turned his back on his own daughter? Afternoon dragged on, peppered with business calls that Dylan fielded with mechanical efficiency. Finally, near day's end, his phone flashed with a message from the investigator. Preliminary background checks indicated Lily Donovan, age 28, had moved to the city roughly 6 years prior, consistent with a timeline that might match Dylan's memories. No official father listed on her daughter's birth certificate. Limited medical records. Little social media presence. Dylan's heart gave a lurch. No father listed on the birth certificate. That detail alone couldn't confirm anything, but it hinted strongly at a situation he might have unknowingly created. Exhausted but determined, he decided that he wouldn't let more time slip by. He needed to see Lily face to face, away from the clamor of the cafe, and speak openly. She deserved the chance to tell her story on her terms, without fear that he would exert his influence or manipulate the situation. A plan took shape. The next day, Dylan returned to the cafe earlier than usual, hoping to catch Lily just as her shift began. He arrived to find her rearranging chairs on the outdoor patio, preparing for the day. A hush clung to the morning air. Only a couple of regular patrons sipped coffee inside, and Mia was nowhere in sight. Lily's back was turned, her posture tense. Dylan approached quietly, pausing a few steps away. For a moment, he was unsure how to start. The polished CEO in him wanted to adopt his usual calm, confident tone. Instead, he opted for honesty. "Lily," he said softly. She spun around, startled, nearly knocking a chair askew. "Mr. Harrington, you startled me." Her voice trembled with a mixture of confusion and apprehension. "We're not open for another 20 minutes. He took a breath. "I'm not here for coffee. I came because we need to talk." Seeing her uncertainty, he forced a gentler approach. "Please just hear me out, and if you want me to go, I will. But there's something I need to ask you. About your daughter." She froze at the mention of Mia. Her face paled, and the flicker in her eyes told him she'd known all along that this moment would come. Her gaze darted to the cafe window, checking if anyone was watching. I don't," she stammered, clearly overwhelmed. Dylan lifted his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to accuse you or force you into anything. Lily, if she's mine, I need to know." His voice nearly cracked at the end, betraying the swirl of emotion he'd been fighting to keep under control. Silence stretched between them, thick with regret, fear, and a hope neither wanted to acknowledge. Lily's hand tightened around the edge of a patio chair. He could see the tears brimming in her eyes. Whatever she was about to say, the truth was poised to shatter or transform both their worlds. At first, Lily could not speak. No words emerged from her parted lips, only the faint tremble of someone on the brink of a confession that had weighed on her heart for far too long. It was only when Dylan reached out, gently, as if trying to steady her, that her gaze snapped up to his. In his eyes, she perceived something unexpected, a soft sincerity, an ache that mirrored her own unspoken pain. "I need to know," Dylan repeated, his voice lower than before, as though fearing the wrong volume might send her running. "Mia, is she my—" Lily tore her eyes away, raking her hands through the edges of the chair she'd been clutching. "I wanted to tell you so many times," she whispered. Then quickly, she shook her head. "No, that's not true. I was afraid. After I found out, after I realized I was pregnant, you were already off, running your empire, sealed behind a wall of security and obligations, and I was just me." Her words came out in a stumbling rush, unfiltered. Dylan's expression wavered between shock and regret. "Lily," he said, stepping closer, not yet daring to touch her, "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't come to me." Lily forced a quiet, strained laugh. "You didn't even know my number anymore, Dylan. We never exchanged more than a few fleeting conversations. That one night—" She paused, her cheeks flushing as memory collided with the present. "That one night after the fundraiser, everything felt so genuine. But it was brief, right? Then you had to travel. Weeks turned into months, and I realized I was pregnant. Telling you became this impossible hurdle. and I convinced myself that you, someone of your stature, would see it as a complication you didn't need." The sincerity in her trembling voice made Dylan's heart twist. He remembered the night she spoke of, the final hours of a lavish charity event, the city sparkling beyond the terrace, her presence so refreshing compared to the usual crowd. They had talked about random things, from silly childhood memories to deeper musings on life's unpredictability. It was the first time in ages he'd felt truly seen. Then he departed on urgent business, and somehow they had drifted apart. "If only I had known," he managed, guilt thick in his voice. My memory of that night always lingered. I tried to figure out how to contact you, but as time passed I assumed you'd moved on." Lily swallowed hard, trying to stifle the tears. "I'm not telling you this to blame you, Dylan. Things happened, and yes, Mia is yours. From the moment she was born, I saw your features in her. She's so bright, so curious. She's everything you might imagine." Her words cut off as the door to the cafe swung open from inside. Another employee spotted them through the glass and gestured in Lily's direction, likely reminding her they'd open soon. Lily nodded, dabbed at her cheeks with quick fingertips, then angled herself toward Dylan. "Please, can we not do this here?" she asked quietly. "Everyone I work with, they don't know about any of it. I just want to keep it private." Dylan followed her glance, noticing a few inquisitive faces peering from behind the cafe's windows. With a curt nod, he stepped away. "Of course," he said, adjusting the cuff of his suit jacket to hide how unsteady his hands felt. "Tell me when and where. I'll make the time, no matter what." The finality in his tone left no room for doubt. Lily hesitated, then offered a faint nod. "There's a park not too far from here, Riverton Park. Mia loves the pond with the ducks. I take her on my off days, usually late afternoon when it's quieter. We can talk then." Her words were cautious, yet a small spark of relief shone in her eyes. Relief at unburdening the secret, if only a little. Dylan pressed his lips together, absorbing what she said. "All right," he murmured. "This afternoon, if that works for you." She glanced at her watch, an older model, scuffed from use. "I finish at 5. Around 5:30, you'll find us by the water, near the big elm tree." Her gaze flicked up to his, and there was both gratitude and apprehension shining there. "Please, Dylan, no drama. Mia, she doesn't know who you are. She doesn't even realize her father is out there somewhere, living this big life. If we're going to do this, I need it done gently." He understood. The idea that Mia had grown up entirely without his presence shocked and hurt him, but he forced himself to remain calm. "I promise," he said, voice tight with emotion. Then, with a quick glance behind her at the bustling staff inside, he retreated to let her return to work. "I'll see you at the park." The hours stretched unbearably long after that. Dylan tried returning to his office but found no peace among the spreadsheets and project proposals. He asked his assistant to reschedule the afternoon's block of meetings, something he rarely did, citing a personal emergency. If anyone suspected a deeper reason, they had no cause to question. His reputation alone usually kept people from prying. Finally, just after 5, Dylan left his building and drove himself, dispensing with his usual driver, to Riverton Park. It was a tranquil, tree-lined expanse just beyond the city's busy streets. Families often strolled there, feeding ducks or enjoying the open green fields. Parking near the entrance, he spied the meandering walkway that led to a small pond ringed by benches and centuries-old elms. He followed the gravel path, heart thumping as he scanned each face in the mild, late-afternoon light. He nearly passed her at first, a petite figure in a simple sweater, leaning down to help a child scatter crumbs for the ducks. When Lily straightened, their eyes met across the expanse of soft grass, and a hush seemed to descend on the entire park. Mia was excitedly tossing bits of bread into the water, her laughter bright and melodic. Dylan approached slowly, almost reverently. Lily beckoned him with a subtle motion, guiding him a few steps away so Mia wouldn't overhear their conversation. "She's having fun," Lily said in a small voice, crossing her arms as if to steady herself. "Always does." Dylan stole a moment to look at Mia. She was so full of life, so natural in her wonder at the ducks paddling around. He saw reflections of himself in her spirited movements, though maybe he was imagining it because he wanted so badly to see that connection. "She's beautiful," he murmured, forcing a breath through the tightness in his chest. When Lily's eyes misted over, she turned her head as though not wanting him to see her tears. "I never wanted to keep her a secret," she said, her voice wavering. "But it just got complicated, Dylan. I didn't have your contact info. The people at your company, once I tried, wouldn't let me through. When she was born, I kept thinking I should try harder to reach you, but each time I'd see you on the news or in magazines, it reminded me how different our worlds are. I figured you'd have more important priorities." The mention of priorities sliced him with guilt. "You and Mia would have been my top priority," he said fiercely, surprising even himself with the intensity of his words. "I've spent years chasing deals and expansions, thinking that was my life's purpose. But if I'd known—" He didn't finish the sentence. He realized how empty any hypothetical might sound to a woman who had struggled alone for so long. At that moment, Mia's voice cut through the hush. "Mommy, I need more bread." She trotted over, eyes darting curiously to Dylan. She offered a friendly grin as a child might greet anyone. "Hi," she chirped. "Are you Mommy's friend?" Lily swallowed, momentarily at a loss for words. Dylan crouched down, his voice gentle. "Hi there," he said, summoning a warm smile. "I guess you could say I'm a new friend." His heart clenched. Calling himself a friend felt inadequate, but it was all he had right now. "You're feeding the ducks, huh?" Mia nodded, wiggling in place with excitement. "They're so hungry," she said, her small hand gripping the bag of crumbs. "Mommy says not to give them too much, but I think they want a lot." Dylan couldn't help but chuckle softly. "They probably do," he agreed. For a moment, it was just the three of them standing there, the child oblivious to the tension underlying the adult's every word. Then Lily gently ushered Mia back toward the pond, where the little girl resumed her fascination with the waddling birds. As Mia ran off a short distance away, Lily turned to Dylan. "She doesn't know what a father is, beyond what she sees in other families at the park," she said quietly. "I never told her any lies, just never gave her much detail." Pain flickered across Dylan's face. He stepped closer, careful to keep his tone gentle. "What do you want me to do, Lily?" he asked. "Tell me. Do you want me in her life? Is that something I'm allowed to hope for?" He swallowed hard, fear coiling in his stomach. "Because I do, more than anything." A watery smile ghosted across Lily's features. She had prepared herself for the possibility that Dylan would resent her or deny any responsibility. Instead, his raw sincerity stunned her. "Of course," she said finally, "but it can't be rushed. She's 5, Dylan. She's never known a father. If you suddenly show up and say, 'Hey, I'm your dad, and by the way, I run this massive company,' it'll overwhelm her. I need you to promise you'll take this step by step." Dylan exhaled, relief coursing through him. "I can do that. Tell me what that looks like." And then, almost shyly, he added, "I'd like to help, financially. You wouldn't have to—" He stopped when Lily held up a hand. "We will talk about support, but the last thing Mia needs is to be showered with gifts from a man she doesn't even know yet. We'll figure that out in time. Right now, she just needs to understand who you are in a way that feels safe." He nodded, accepting the wisdom in her words. "All right, step by step. If you'll let me, I can start coming here to the park or maybe to lunch, letting her get used to me." His heart pounded with quiet determination. "I'm not going to leave you two again, Lily. No matter what it takes, I want to be there." Hearing that, Lily's eyes brimmed with fresh tears. She glanced at Mia, who squealed as a duck splashed nearby. "She's an incredible little girl," Lily murmured. "It's been hard juggling shifts at the cafe, rent, her school. Some months I barely scrape by, but she never complains, always full of wonder." She paused, turning to Dylan. "If you really want to do this, be in our lives, then you have to be as genuine as you are right now. She deserves no less." Dylan's gaze drifted over to Mia, heartbreak and hope warring within him. He nodded. "I promise," he said quietly, every syllable anchored in earnestness. In that moment, something in Lily's posture softened, like the walls she had built around her heart were loosening, allowing a tentative trust to flicker to life. They continued talking in subdued voices, exchanging brief stories about Mia, her favorite foods, her bedtime rituals, the stuffed rabbit she refused to sleep without. Each detail was both precious and painful to Dylan, a reminder of milestones he had already missed. Yet he felt immeasurable gratitude to have this chance at all. At length, Mia bounded over again, demanding Lily's attention for a new discovery near the water's edge. Lily excused herself to check on whatever Mia had found, a tiny fish or a cluster of flowers perhaps, and Dylan stood still, watching them. Despite the swirl of regret in his heart, a quiet warmth spread through him as he observed mother and child in the setting sun. For the first time in years, a sense of genuine purpose cut through the static of business deals and corporate expansions. He intended to be part of Mia's life, to earn his place and, in time, to show her that he was worthy of being called Dad. And as he watched Lily crouch to tie Mia's shoelace, the golden light catching her hair, he thought, perhaps this new beginning was the most important merger of his life, binding him to a part of himself he never knew he was missing. The sky had deepened into pale lavender by the time Lily and Mia said their goodbyes to Dylan, leaving the park under a gentle hush of twilight. He watched them walk away, Lily's arm resting over Mia's small shoulders. The simple sight filled him with a fierce, unfamiliar yearning, as though he were a traveler standing at the threshold of a home he'd never visited but always longed for. He lingered by the water for a while, letting the night air settle around him. Ducks drifted aimlessly on the pond's glassy surface, and distant city lights began flickering on like quiet beacons. Dylan's mind buzzed with unrelenting thoughts. Mia's bright laughter, Lily's worried eyes, the delicate question of how to properly introduce himself into their tight-knit world. Eventually, he made his way back to his car. A swirl of phone notifications and messages awaited him, but the significance of those usual demands had shifted dramatically. Without hesitation, he called his assistant. "Reschedule the meeting with the software development team," he said, "and push tomorrow's board presentation to the afternoon. I've got personal commitments in the morning." His assistant, after a beat of surprise, acknowledged the request. Dylan ended the call, exhaling slowly. For years, personal commitments had always been overshadowed by business. Now, for the first time, he wanted to prioritize a real human connection, one he feared might slip away if he wasn't careful. Lily's cramped apartment was nothing glamorous. An older two-story complex with peeling paint in the hallways, tiny living spaces that forced every piece of furniture to serve a practical purpose. But once inside, you could tell she'd done her best to create warmth. A small lamp cast a soft glow on framed pictures of Mia through the years. Mia as a toddler in a floral dress, Mia grinning toothlessly on her first day of preschool, Mia hugging a frayed stuffed bunny. A modest stack of children's books lined a low shelf. The table in the corner doubled as a place for Lily to sort bills or correct her daughter's crayons, whichever the day required. After dinner, Lily helped Mia into pajamas printed with cartoon planets. Mia, brimming with post-park excitement, fidgeted through a bedtime story, occasionally blurting out questions about the nice man who had joined them. He smiled a lot, Mia mused, hugging her stuffed bunny. He asked me about the ducks. Lily paused in her reading of a children's tale and brushed Mia's hair aside. He's just someone I know, sweetheart, she said gently. You might see him again. But for now, don't worry too much, okay? Mia nodded, easily distracted, and curled up under the covers. She drifted off with the innocence of a child unburdened by adult complexities. Lily tucked the blanket around her, heart heavy with the knowledge that everything in their lives was about to change. Would Mia be able to handle learning that Dylan was not just a friendly visitor, but her father? Would she struggle with the same fears Lily had faced in raising her alone? Quietly, Lily retreated to her small living room, flipping through a few unopened letters, bills mainly, along with a notice about rent set to increase. She felt a pang of anxiety. The cafe wages barely covered their current expenses. Any jump in rent would send her scrambling. She closed her eyes, remembering Dylan's offer of financial support. It tempted her fiercely, but a swirl of pride and uncertainty wouldn't let her accept it blindly. Dylan was sincere. She sensed that. Yet after so many years of forging independence, letting him swoop in with money felt equally vulnerable and unnerving. Still, she thought about the way he had looked at Mia, a mixture of awe, remorse, and pure affection. Lily couldn't deny that Mia deserved a relationship with her father, and that, perhaps, Lily deserved to have someone on her side for once, even if it meant facing the raw truth of her own fears. Meanwhile, across the city, Dylan sat in his high-rise penthouse, perched on the edge of an expensive leather sofa. The panoramic window offered an opulent view, a glittering skyline, headlights weaving through busy streets, neon reflections dancing against steel towers. Normally, he would find solace in this vantage point. It had once symbolized his success, a testament that he had made it. But that night, the emptiness pressed in. The sprawling living room with its minimalist furniture and polished surfaces felt cold, like a stage rather than a home. He realized that for all his accomplishments, he had no framed photos of family or carefree moments, nothing that mirrored Lily's little collection of Mia's memories. For years, he had told himself that unencumbered solitude allowed him to focus on success. Now, the quiet seemed more like a glaring absence. He opened his laptop, scanning emails and messages. The usual deals, proposals, and expansions demanded attention, yet his mind kept wandering back to Mia's gentle grin. Suddenly, the realization of fatherhood seemed more urgent than any corporate move. With a resolute breath, he set aside the work email and composed a different kind of message. To a child psychologist he had once supported through a company charity. If anyone could guide him on gently introducing himself to a 5-year-old daughter he'd never met, it was an expert. And Dylan wasn't too proud to admit he needed all the help he could get. After hitting send, he flicked off the main lights and stood at the window, letting the city's reflection wash over him. He wondered if Lily was still awake, worried about how to handle their new arrangement. Tomorrow or the next day, he wanted to see them again, to talk more about bridging this gap, about letting Mia know who he was, and about what it might mean for their future. Within a week, Dylan and Lily settled into a tentative routine of brief, cautious encounters. They agreed to meet outdoors on Lily's days off or after her shifts. Sometimes they fed ducks again at Riverton Park. Other times they let Mia guide them to the small playground with a colorful slide and swings. Mia quickly recognized Dylan's presence as a regular treat, someone who'd help push her swing gently, someone who'd marvel at her new attempts on the monkey bars. Through it all, Lily kept a watchful eye, grappling with her own emotions. She was thankful Dylan didn't overstep. He never grabbed Mia in an overwhelming hug or tried to buy her expensive gifts. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions. What's Mia's favorite color? Which bedtime story does she like best? He seemed intent on learning who Mia was before claiming a title in her life. One afternoon, Mia announced that Dylan should help her build a sandcastle in the small sandy patch near the playground. With Lily seated on a nearby bench, they set to work, patting wet sand into lumpy turrets and digging tiny moats. Dylan found himself kneeling in the dust, suit jacket tossed aside, tie loosened. It felt absurdly refreshing, almost like reclaiming a childhood he'd left behind when he first set foot in the corporate world. As they worked, Mia peppered him with questions. "Did you build castles when you were little?" she asked, not yet realizing that grown-ups could recall their own childhoods. He chuckled, smoothing the sand. "Sometimes, yes, although mine were never as good as this one." He paused, letting the moment linger. "What do you think we should name our castle?" Mia tapped her chin dramatically. "Castle Quack," she announced, pointing to the flock of ducks wandering nearby. Dylan grinned, nodding as he gently pressed a rock into the sand for a turret. Lily observed them with a twist of emotion in her chest, a mixture of gratitude, relief, and a flicker of longing. In her mind, she saw an alternate version of her life, one where Dylan had been there from the start, carrying Mia in his arms from infancy, teaching her how to say, "Daddy." Yet that timeline never came to pass, and now they were learning each other in slow increments, trying to forge something whole out of fragments and lost time. After shaping the final tower on Castle Quack, Mia dashed away, drawn by another child waving a bubble wand. Dylan stood, wiping the sand off his hands. Lily handed him a bottle of water, her lips curving into a soft smile. "She really likes you," she said. "I can see how excited she gets before these visits." Dylan's eyes flickered with a subtle joy. "I'm growing pretty fond of her too," he confessed. "Every time I see her, I'm more amazed. She's clever, funny, and strong," Lily added, brushing sand from her own knees. "She can be so fearless, except around spiders." She chuckled, remembering how Mia once burst into tears upon finding a tiny spider in the bathroom. In that moment, you'd think the world was ending. They shared a moment of easy laughter, and Dylan found himself longing to know more about Lily's hidden corners. Her likes, her dreams, the silent struggles she had faced raising Mia on her own. He cleared his throat. "I know we're focusing on Mia, and that's exactly right. But how are you holding up with all this? I imagine it must be overwhelming." Lily exhaled. "It's complicated. Some days I feel happy seeing you two bond. Other times, guilt rushes in because I kept you apart all these years. And then there's the fear about how drastically our lives might change." He nodded in understanding. "I won't rush anything, I promise. But let me help, Lily. I'm not just talking about money, though I want to support you and Mia however I can. I also want to be there for you if you're anxious or uncertain." He paused, searching her face. "Let me be someone you can lean on." His sincerity was disarming. Lily's first instinct was to deflect. She had built a fortress of self-reliance. But as she glanced at Mia, busily popping bubbles in the distance, Lily realized that maybe a fortress wasn't what they needed anymore. "I'm trying to let that happen," she admitted softly. "I just don't know how." Dylan stepped closer, the gentle breeze rustling the nearby trees. He kept his voice low, careful not to intrude on her personal space. "Well," he said, "we can start with small steps. I could pick Mia up from school once a week or help with errands. Whatever might make your life a bit easier." Lily hesitated, thinking of the rent bill, the mounting financial pressures. She wanted to cling to her independence. Yet Dylan wasn't forcing an agenda. He was offering genuine partnership. "We can figure something out," she said at last, her tone a shade more open. "Maybe you can come by the cafe on my lunch break. We'll talk more, okay?" He nodded, a gentle brightness in his eyes. "Absolutely." The next day, the swirling of their new normal took an unexpected turn. Dylan had arranged for a short visit at the cafe, promising he would merely stop by, share a coffee, and talk discreetly with Lily. Mia would be at kindergarten until mid-afternoon, giving them privacy. But as Dylan entered the cafe, he found Lily pacing near the counter, a paleness staining her cheeks. The manager was in the corner, locked in a tense phone call with the building's landlord. Lily looked up, startled, when Dylan approached. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, noticing her trembling fingers. Her throat tightened. "The cafe's being sold. New owners. They want to reduce staff. I might lose my job. Everyone might, actually." She pressed a hand to her temple, frustration and fear radiating from her. "I depend on this, Dylan. I don't have another fallback right now." Hearing the raw panic in her voice, Dylan stepped up, lowering his voice. "Hey, it's all right. Maybe I can help." But Lily shook her head vehemently. "Not by buying the place or swooping in with a rescue. This is my livelihood. I need to handle this on my own terms." He understood the intensity behind her words. Any attempt to fix things with money might only confirm her worst fears, that he would overshadow her choices. He offered a gentle nod. "I respect that. But if you need a letter of recommendation or a contact to help you find another job, anything that you feel comfortable with, just say the word." Lily's eyes were glassy, but she managed a resolute breath. "I might take you up on that. Just let me see how the dust settles here first." She excused herself to talk with the manager, leaving Dylan to wait near the hostess stand. He watched her from across the room, thinking about how precarious her life had become. A single thread pulled, and everything threatened to unravel. He admired the resilience she showed. He also realized that if he was serious about being in their lives, he would have to navigate these challenges carefully, always mindful of Lily's dignity and trust. He could feel how each new complication bound them tighter, forging a bond that might be fragile, yet essential. No matter how complicated, no matter how carefully he had to tread, he knew one thing with clarity. He would stand beside Lily and Mia, supporting them in ways they accepted, for as long as it took. That afternoon, as Lily concluded her tense conversation, she looked across the cafe and found Dylan watching her with quiet concern. In that moment, something in her gaze softened, just a fraction. For the first time, she saw not just the dynamic CEO, but a man who truly cared, who might be able to shoulder the burden of life's chaos alongside her instead of towering above it. Their path forward was uncertain, overshadowed by looming changes at the cafe and the delicate steps needed to introduce Dylan fully as Mia's father. Yet in the hush of that busy establishment, they exchanged a small, brave smile. It felt like the beginning of a future forged not by secrets and fears, but by the cautious hope that love, in all its unpredicted forms, might be enough to carry them through. The following days passed in a blur of uncertainty. Even outside her shift, Lily found herself waking in the early hours, fear curling in her stomach. The idea of losing her job at the cafe loomed over her every moment. How could she support Mia, manage rent, handle the rising costs of daily life? Yet each time panic threatened to choke her, she forced herself to breathe deep, determined not to let this setback define her. Morning sunlight splashed through Lily's small kitchen as she prepared Mia's breakfast. The sweet warmth of vanilla oatmeal filled the air, while Mia chattered excitedly about her upcoming school project. Lily listened with a soft smile, nodding at her daughter's rapid-fire questions. It amazed her how Mia could be so fearless about standing in front of her classmates to present a drawing of her happy place. If only Lily could match that same brazen confidence right now. "Mommy, do you think Mr. Dylan likes ducks too?" Mia asked suddenly, her spoon pausing mid-air. "He always seems happy when we feed them." Lily hesitated, glancing over at Mia's bright eyes. "I think he does," she replied, voice carefully even. "He's just a person who appreciates small moments." Mia tilted her head thoughtfully. "Like you." She grinned, returning her attention to the oatmeal. Lily's heart pinched at that innocent observation. She wanted to share everything with her daughter about Dylan. Yet the conversation about him being Mia's father was a bridge she still didn't know how to cross. Once Mia headed off to school, Lily lingered in the quiet apartment, sorting bills, contemplating her future. Part of her longed to accept Dylan's help beyond emotional support. Another part, wary and proud, clung to her independence. She feared crossing the line between a supportive relationship and a dynamic where Dylan's wealth dwarfed her autonomy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. "Hope you're doing okay today. Thinking of you both. If you need anything, truly anything, just let me know." She reread the message twice. His words were gentle, caring without pushing. Slowly she typed back, "We're okay, thank you. Heading to the cafe soon to see what's happening." A reply came within seconds. "Call me afterward. I'd like to meet up if you have time." She hesitated, then sent a single word. "Sure." At the cafe that afternoon, Lily discovered an atmosphere thick with apprehension. The manager had posted a notice by the break room. Staff meeting, mandatory, Friday, 8 a.m. Word had filtered through that the new owners would be present, announcing changes to positions and scheduling. Some employees whispered that layoffs were guaranteed. Others clung to hope that the business simply needed reorganization. Behind the counter, Lily prepared espresso drinks for a couple of regulars, her smile brittle. Every clink of the milk steamer felt like a countdown. Still, she maintained composure. If this was her final week, she intended to leave with grace. She didn't want to appear weak or desperate, especially not in front of co-workers who looked to her for steady calm. When her shift ended, she texted Dylan. A few minutes later, she found herself outside the cafe, peering down the street. As promised, his black sedan was idling nearby. He stepped out, exchanging a quick word with the driver, then held the passenger door for Lily. She paused, uncertain. While the day had worn on her, she wasn't sure riding off in Dylan's luxurious car was the best way to maintain the low profile she'd carefully guarded. Dylan, sensing her hesitation, offered an apologetic smile. "We could walk," he suggested quietly. "My driver can follow at a distance. I just want us to talk somewhere quieter." Lily nodded, relief threading through her. Together, they strolled toward a small coffee stand tucked at the corner of a nearby park, different from the one Mia liked, quieter and more adult. The late afternoon light gleamed off skyscraper windows, and though the city hummed around them, they found a modest bench by a neat row of rose bushes. "How was work?" Dylan asked gently, handing her a cappuccino from the coffee stand's to-go window. He didn't pry, but concern radiated from him. She took a breath, sipping the foam before answering. "Still up in the air," she admitted. "We have a meeting on Friday where they'll decide who stays and who goes. It's a waiting game, and I'm not a fan of waiting games." Dylan watched her, eyes steady. "You mentioned you don't want me fixing this with money," he said carefully, "and I understand your reasons. But if you do lose your job, would you let me help you find another position, perhaps at one of my companies, or with a partner? You have skills. It doesn't have to feel like charity." Her gaze dropped to the cappuccino cup. A trickle of warm wind stirred the edges of her hair. "It's tempting," she admitted, "but it still feels like a big leap. I've always found my own way, worked my own jobs. If I jump straight into something you orchestrate, I'd worry about how that might shift the balance." He nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. Still, you'd be employed for your merits. It wouldn't be a token role. I'd want you to have real responsibility, if that's what you want. Or I could just introduce you to my HR contacts, and you can do the rest yourself. No strings attached." Lily exhaled slowly. It wasn't that she doubted her abilities. She had proven her resourcefulness time and again. But the looming rent increase, Mia's future needs, and the possibility of losing the cafe job weighed heavily. "Let me see how Friday goes," she whispered. "Then we can discuss the next step. If all else fails, I'll accept your help." A gentle relief shone in Dylan's expression. "All right," he said, lightly covering her hand with his. "Just know I'm here to back you up." She let his touch linger for a moment before gently sliding her hand free, mindful of the swirl of new emotions. "Thank you," she murmured. "I'm still learning how to trust in all of this." "I know," he replied, voice low. The tension between them was more than uncertainty about her job. Unspoken feelings simmered beneath, feelings that seemed to expand whenever they were together. Each memory of that distant night all those years ago hovered like an echo they hadn't fully acknowledged. "What about Mia?" Lily asked, changing the subject. "She started to notice how often you appear. Yesterday, she asked why you don't come home with us or have dinner at our apartment." Dylan's heart gave a small leap. "What did you tell her?" "That you're a friend," Lily said simply. She accepted that, for now. But kids are smart. She'll piece things together, and I don't want to lie to her. One day soon, I'll have to explain that you're her father, and I think we should do it together, once we're both ready. Dylan's expression grew solemn. The idea both thrilled and terrified him. "I'll follow your lead," he said, "but the sooner the better, right? I want her to know I'm not just dropping by out of some passing interest, that I'm here to stay." Lily studied him, reading the raw sincerity in his face. Her defenses wavered. "Yes, let's figure out the best moment." She glanced away, admiring the roses. She might be overjoyed, or confused, or both. He gently nudged her shoulder with his. "We'll handle it together." That single phrase, "together," sent a tingle of warmth through her chest. It implied partnership, solidarity, something she had fought to believe could exist in her life. They finished their coffees in comfortable silence, punctuated by the city's evening bustle. Then Dylan walked her back toward the cafe where her car was parked. The conversation lingered on practical details: how to coordinate pickups from Mia's school, potential plans for the weekend if Lily was up for it. As they neared her vehicle, Lily realized how seamlessly Dylan had woven himself into her daily routine. There was no pushy insistence or show of dominance, just small, earnest offerings of help and companionship. Before parting ways, he paused. "About Friday's staff meeting. Would you like me to wait somewhere nearby in case you need to talk afterward?" She shook her head, touched by the gesture but wanting to stand on her own in front of the new owners. "I'll be fine," she said, though her voice betrayed a hint of nerves. "But I'll call you if it goes badly. Maybe we'll grab coffee again, or I'll come by your office. I guess we'll see." Dylan smiled gently. "Deal. Good luck." With that, he dipped his head in a half bow of encouragement and stepped back, letting her climb into the driver's seat. As Lily pulled away, she caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, still standing at the curb, hands in his pockets, watching to make sure she navigated safely into traffic. An unexpected swell of hope coursed through her. Perhaps it was premature to trust that everything would be okay. She still faced the threat of job loss, the delicate matter of Mia's father revelation, and the swirl of emotions she felt for Dylan. Yet something about his steadiness, his unwavering acceptance of her uncertainties, calmed the persistent fear that had been gnawing at her heart. In the rush of the city's evening commute, Lily whispered a small prayer for stability, for resilience, and for the courage to let someone share the weight she'd carried alone for so long. Whatever Friday would bring, she knew she would face it with her chin held high, aware that for the first time in years, she was no longer entirely on her own. A silent tremor settled over the cafe staff as Friday dawned. The morning light came tinged with apprehension, slicing through the windows in bright, slanted rays that somehow felt harsh rather than comforting. Nobody lingered over their usual banter. Even the smells of fresh coffee and baked pastries couldn't mask the gloom. Lily arrived early, hoping to steel her nerves before the mandatory meeting. She found her manager pacing near the counter, wringing his hands around a clipboard. A few co-workers huddled in tense clusters, whispering half-formed speculations. Just before 8 o'clock, a pair of sleek cars pulled up outside. Through the glass doors, Lily watched two unfamiliar figures step out. One man, one woman, both dressed in crisp suits. They walked in with business-like precision. The woman, tall and sharp-featured, introduced herself as Heather McAllister, the new owner and de facto spokesperson. The man, graying at the temples, gave only his last name, Klein, and kept largely silent, flanking Heather as she strode past the espresso machines and into the dining area. Heather paused in front of the tables arranged for the staff meeting. She examined the faces of the employees without smiling. "Thank you for coming. I'm Heather McAllister, and this is Mr. Klein. We represent the new ownership group. Over the next few weeks, we'll be making considerable changes to update this establishment and revitalize its profitability." A few staff members exchanged uneasy glances. Lily clutched a plastic water cup in her lap, heart hammering. The manager tried to look composed, but Lily sensed his own dread lurking behind a forced half-smile. Heather continued, her voice echoing in the stillness. "You've likely heard rumors about staff restructuring. I won't sugarcoat the reality. We must streamline our operations. That means assessing who fits our vision and who doesn't. By end of day, each of you will be given a formal notice, either continued employment under revised terms or termination." A flurry of alarmed whispers spread through the group. Heather raised her hand to forestall questions. "We'll speak with each person individually in the back office within the next few hours. Until then, please be patient." An anxious hush fell. Lily fought a wave of nausea. The idea that her job might vanish by sunset filled her with a buzzing dread. Even those who believed their positions secure looked rattled by Heather's brisk clinical approach. Without further discussion, Heather signaled that the group could disperse. People began to file away, some trailing the new owners into the small office to wait for their turn, others stepping outside to smoke or pace with phones pressed to their ears. Lily found a seat in the corner and sipped from her water, trying to slow her breathing. Her manager approached, eyes filled with sympathetic worry. "I can't predict the decisions," he said quietly, leaning on the table. "But Heather's known for cost-cutting measures. I'm so sorry, Lily. If there's any justice, they'll see you're an asset. You've always been so reliable." She forced a faint smile. "Thanks," she managed. "I guess we'll see." As the morning dragged on, employees were called in one by one. Lily willed herself not to overthink. She imagined Mia's face, the sparkle in her eyes whenever she discovered something new, like a funny-shaped cloud or a hidden flower in the park. That memory steadied Lily, reminding her she had a reason to fight. She had survived tougher times before. She could survive this. Finally, nearly 2 hours later, her name echoed across the cafe floor. "Lily Donovan?" called Heather's clipped voice. Lily rose on unsteady legs and followed Heather and Mr. Klein into the cramped office. A battered desk and a few metal chairs took up most of the space, with the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Heather motioned for Lily to sit. Mr. Klein stationed himself behind them, arms folded, exuding a silent but looming presence. Heather lifted a manila folder, scanning it briefly. "You've been here 3 years," she began in a matter-of-fact tone. "Primarily as a server, though you also assist with inventory on occasion, is that correct?" "Yes," Lily confirmed, hands tightening in her lap. "I've taken on extra responsibilities whenever asked. I trained new hires. I've even handled closing procedures alone when the manager was short-staffed." Heather nodded, tapping a pen against the folder. "Your record is commendable. No tardiness issues? Consistent performance reviews? The question is whether your role aligns with our new direction. We plan to shift the cafe's style. Slimmer menu, more automation, minimal staff to reduce overhead. Essentially, we're pushing for high-volume, quick-service turnover. Do you see yourself fitting into a more fast-paced environment with fewer hours guaranteed?" Lily's heart twinged. Fewer hours guaranteed translated to less pay, possibly a fraction of what she currently earned. "I'm willing to adapt," she said, voice carefully controlled. "I've always been flexible. If you need baristas or servers who can manage multiple tasks, I'm open to that. But I rely on full-time hours. I have a child to support. Heather regarded her coolly. We can only offer part-time for existing staff, at least during our transitional period, she said. Maybe in a few months, if business picks up, we'll revisit that. Lily swallowed, her throat tight. I understand the constraints, but part-time isn't enough to cover my living expenses. Would there be any possibility of a more stable arrangement? Heather's gaze flicked to Mr. Klein, who remained expressionless. We don't make special accommodations, Heather said bluntly. Everyone's hours are being cut. If you can't accept that, it might be best to explore other opportunities. She set the pen down with a final clack. Think on it for a moment. We're prepared to offer you a part-time position with no guarantee of future full-time hours. A million thoughts streaked through Lily's mind. A part-time paycheck couldn't keep her afloat. And yet, leaving with no job at all felt terrifying. She inhaled shakily. Could I ask for a day to decide? I'd like to review my budget and see if it's possible to manage on fewer hours. Heather checked her watch. We're finalizing rosters this evening. By the end of the day, we need your answer. A hollow pit opened in Lily's stomach. She nodded woodenly. All right, I'll give you my decision by closing time. Heather offered a curt nod. That's acceptable. We'll do the paperwork then if you choose to stay. Without further ado, she opened the office door, effectively dismissing Lily. Hands trembling, Lily slipped into the break room, leaning against the wall to steady herself. Other employees milled about in subdued conversation, some wiping away tears after hearing their fates. A co-worker who'd just been let go passed Lily with a hollow expression, clutching her final paycheck. Lily slid her phone from her pocket. Without overthinking, she tapped Dylan's number. He answered on the second ring. Lily? He said, worry lacing his voice. How did it go? Quiet tears threatened to break her composure, but she forced them back. They want me to stay. Only part-time. That's not enough to support Mia. But if I quit, I'll have nothing. She exhaled, trying to keep her voice down. I have until closing to decide. Where are you now? Dylan asked gently. No urgency or pushiness, just deep concern. At the cafe, in the break room, she murmured. My shift is basically paused. Everyone's either leaving or regrouping. It's chaos. He hesitated. Do you want to step outside and talk? I can meet you somewhere. She closed her eyes. A wave of relief swept over her at the idea of not being alone in this moment. Yes, please. I'll text you the address of a small park next to the cafe parking lot. If you can come soon, I'm on my way, he said. She ended the call and wandered out, ignoring the curious glances from co-workers. Outside, the midday sun felt almost too bright. She found a bench near an unremarkable patch of grass and sent Dylan the location. Moments later, his car pulled into the lot and he parked quickly, striding toward her with a concerned expression. Lily stood as he approached. Without preamble, she felt him gently grasp her shoulders. Hey, he said softly, scanning her face. You're shaking. She tried to laugh it off, but emotion bubbled in her throat. It's just nerves, she said, and anger maybe. I put so much into that cafe. Now they're slashing everyone's hours like it doesn't matter. Dylan's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice calm. I know. And it's not fair. You deserve better. He guided her to sit on the bench. Let's consider your options logically. If you stay part-time, can you cover your basics? Rent, food, everything for Mia? Her breath caught. Probably not. With the rent increase, I'd be short every month, and I barely have savings, just enough for emergencies. The tears she had been fighting trickled hotly down her cheeks. She brushed them away in frustration. I'm sorry. I hate feeling this vulnerable. Dylan's gaze held hers. Don't apologize. You're carrying this on your own. But you don't have to anymore. She stared at the ground, conflict rippling across her features. If I walk away now, I'll be jobless. I might not find a new position quickly, unless I accept your help. He gave a slow nod. Yes. But this time, let's talk specifics. I'm not handing you a paycheck out of thin air. I can connect you with someone in my company's HR team. She's excellent at placing qualified people in roles that suit their experience. You'd have to interview, show them what you can do, but I'd make sure they at least consider your application seriously. Lily let out a shaky breath. And that's not weird for you? Having the mother of your daughter working somewhere in your corporate empire? He paused, his lips curved in a gentle, self-deprecating half-smile. My empire is big, Lily. There's a wide range of departments. It wouldn't be direct nepotism if you're qualified, and you are. Your background might fit an administrative support role or even a scheduling coordinator. You told me you've got skills handling customers, inventory, multitasking. Those are valuable. She swallowed hard, the tension easing just a notch. I never pictured myself in a corporate office, she murmured, voice hushed. But maybe I could learn. Of course you can. Or if that environment doesn't suit you, there are other contacts I can give you. Restaurants, event services, something that still uses your skill set. I won't push. But if you want a real shot at stability, I can open the door. You have to walk through it, though. Lily closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the sun settle across her shoulders. Scenes of possible futures flickered through her mind. Some terrifying, some filled with quiet hope. At length, she opened her eyes, meeting Dylan's gaze. I'll do it. I'll resign today. I can't keep riding this sinking ship at the cafe. Then I'll talk to your HR contact and see what happens. But no promises I'll get hired. He reached for her hand, his grip gentle. I understand, but you have my word. We'll figure it out together, one step at a time. Whether that means corporate or something else, we won't let you or Mia fall. A mixture of relief and lingering trepidation flooded her. They sat there for several minutes, letting the decision sink in. The air smelled of freshly cut grass, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked. Lily pictured Mia's face again, her bright smile, her trusting eyes. With that image in mind, Lily found the courage to stand. All right, I should go back inside. I'll let them know I'm leaving. Dylan rose too, his presence at her side quietly reassuring. You don't have to face them alone if you don't want to. But Lily shook her head gently. I do, Dylan. This is my farewell, not yours. She hesitated, then gave a soft, grateful smile. But wait here for me? I might need a ride afterward. I don't think I'll be in the mood to drive myself. He answered with a nod, something warm flickering in his eyes. Take your time. It only took Lily 15 minutes to settle the matter, 15 minutes that felt like letting go of a 3-year chapter in her life. She politely informed Heather that part-time wouldn't be sustainable, thanked the manager for believing in her, packed up her few personal items from the break room, and walked out. Numbness set in as she crossed the threshold, glancing once more at the tables she had served, the espresso machines she had operated with practiced ease. At the curb, Dylan waited, leaning against his car, gaze scanning the sidewalk until he spotted her. Lily's shoulders sagged, a wave of emotion surging as she reached him. She felt his arm circle around her, offering steadiness. Without needing to ask, he opened the passenger door, gently guiding her inside. As they pulled away from the cafe, Lily looked through the rear window at the shrinking facade of the place she had called her professional home. A swirl of regret mingled with an odd sense of freedom. Though fear clenched her heart about what came next, Dylan's hand rested reassuringly on the console between them. She knew that no matter how uncertain the future felt, she wasn't navigating it alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that knowledge could carry her forward into the next stage of her life, a stage in which she would no longer bear every burden by herself. The late morning sun streamed through the massive windows of Harrington Innovations' main lobby, casting geometric patches of light across the polished floor. Dylan ushered Lily inside with gentle reassurance, his hand resting lightly at her elbow. Lily surveyed the space with awe. Employees in sharp attire hurried between glass-walled offices, a few on phones or carrying tablets. Smooth jazz played softly over the speakers, and the scent of fresh roasted coffee drifted from a sleek in-house cafe. If Lily had any doubts about how large Dylan's corporate empire really was, they vanished now. The building exuded a sophisticated energy she had never encountered in her routine at the cafe. Her heart thumped in her chest. She recalled their conversation just days before, how she had agreed to consider a role within Dylan's network if no other immediate prospects panned out. She still felt a pang of anxiety at being here, as though stepping into a world far from her comfort zone. Dylan noticed her guarded expression and gave her a small, encouraging nod. "Just breathe," he murmured. "You're here to meet with someone in HR, an initial conversation. You're not signing your life away." A slight smile tugged at her lips. "I know," she said, inhaling slowly. "I'll try not to hyperventilate." He led her to a private elevator tucked to one side of the lobby. As they ascended, Lily felt gravity shift, both literally and metaphorically. She was stepping upward into a realm typically reserved for individuals wearing suits or carrying business portfolios. Her simple blouse and slacks felt suddenly too casual. But Dylan didn't seem to mind, and neither did the other employees they passed in the hallway. A few greeted him politely, calling him Mr. Harrington or Sir, while sneaking curious glances at Lily. They arrived on the 12th floor, stepping into an open-concept apartment bustling with cubicles and glass-paneled offices. A calm hum of keyboards, muffled phone calls, and low voices filled the air. Dylan guided Lily to a door labeled HR, Talent Acquisition and Development. Before stepping inside, he turned to face her. "I've already given them a basic overview. You've managed inventory, scheduling, training new staff, all in a fast-paced environment. They know you're bright, dependable, and eager to learn. Beyond that, you'll simply talk about your interests. There's no pressure to accept anything on the spot." Lily nodded, nerves prickling along her spine. "Right," she breathed. I don't want them to treat me differently because you're the CEO." He studied her carefully. "I understand. I told them they should treat you like any candidate who came recommended by a colleague. That's not unusual here. We have internal referrals all the time. I want them to appreciate your skills, not your connection to me." Reassured, Lily forced a steadying smile. "Thanks," she whispered, stepping through the frosted glass door. Dylan stayed behind, giving her a final nod of encouragement before letting the HR staff do their job. Inside, she was greeted by a friendly woman in her mid-30s with curly hair pinned back in a professional updo. A nameplate on the desk read, "Regina Bartlett, Talent Acquisition Specialist." Regina extended a hand. "Lily, right? Dylan spoke very highly of you. Come on in." Lily shook Regina's hand, feeling tension ease at the woman's warm demeanor. She followed Regina into a cozy office with pastel walls and framed motivational quotes. Regina gestured for Lily to sit, then pulled up her own chair behind a computer. "So, as Dylan might have mentioned, we typically like to learn about your background, your skills, and where you see yourself fitting into a larger organization. Tell me about your experience." Lily's throat felt dry. She launched into the story of her time at the cafe, quickly clarifying that her day-to-day tasks had gone far beyond just serving tables. She explained how she juggled inventory counts, managed shift schedules for co-workers, and even handled customer complaints when the manager was off-site. She touched on her prior jobs, too, the ones she'd taken soon after moving to the city, each layering new skills. Regina listened attentively, occasionally typing notes on her keyboard. "That's great," she said, nodding as Lily described how she'd sometimes trained new hires. "You have a decent amount of managerial exposure, albeit informally. You mentioned you learned to navigate computer-based ordering systems at the cafe. Are you comfortable with data entry or basic spreadsheets? Yes, Lily answered. I'm by no means a power user, but I learn new software quickly. I like problem solving, especially anything that helps the overall workflow. Regina smiled, tapping the keyboard again. Sounds promising. We have some entry-level coordinator roles in a few departments: procurement, events, corporate hospitality. Each requires a blend of administrative tasks and people skills. If that interests you, I can walk you through some potential openings. Lily nodded, half relieved. That would be wonderful. I'm open to any environment where I can grow. They spent a half hour reviewing job descriptions, discussing Lily's possible fits. One position that caught Lily's interest was a logistics and events coordinator role, helping plan corporate workshops and seminars, ensuring all the scheduling and facility needs were met, and coordinating outside vendors. The job was full-time, offered benefits, and had potential for growth. It was vastly different from cafe work, but it felt like a natural evolution of her organizational skills. At the end, Regina handed Lily a small packet of reading material. Take your time to digest this. If you think it's something you'd like to pursue, we can set up a formal interview next week with the hiring manager. It'd be a standard process, likely a couple of rounds, maybe a practical test or scenario-based questions, nothing too scary. A flutter of excitement danced in Lily's stomach. That sounds amazing. Thank you. She hesitated, glancing at Regina's kind expression. And you're sure it's okay that I came in through Dylan? I don't want to overshadow other candidates. Regina waved a hand dismissively, smiling. Don't worry, we rely on internal referrals all the time. It's how we find people who are already vouched for. Ultimately, you'll earn the position on your own merits. She extended a hand again. Great meeting you, Lily. I'll be in touch soon. Lily left the office feeling lighter, the folder clutched to her chest. Outside, Dylan was waiting near a bank of cubicles, casually greeting an employee who stopped to say hello. When Lily emerged, he turned to her with a question in his eyes. She gave a small nod, lips curving into an involuntary smile. It went well, she said, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. There's a position that actually sounds like a perfect fit. We'll see how the formal interview goes. Dylan's face lit with genuine pride. That's fantastic news, he said. Want to celebrate with a cup of coffee downstairs? She laughed softly. After weeks of serving coffee, now I might actually enjoy one. The tension drained from her shoulders. She allowed Dylan to guide her back to the elevator, feeling a mixture of relief and a cautious sense of possibility blossoming in her chest. In the building's sleek lobby cafe, Lily wrapped her hands around a latte, appreciative of the calm atmosphere. A few employees bustled past, but the noise here was muted compared to the large cafe she used to work in. Dylan sat across from her at a small table sipping an espresso. They exchanged a glance, both aware of the transitions swirling around them. This place is so different from the cafe, Lily mused, eyes drifting around the minimalistic decor. No one screaming out orders, no plates clattering. It feels almost too calm. Dylan chuckled. Trust me, it can get hectic in its own way. Deadlines, product launches, investor relations. It's just a different kind of chaos. She nodded, remembering the hum of tension she sensed earlier. Still, I kind of like the vibe. Maybe I can fit in here. You will, Dylan said, voice sure. Then more softly, I'm proud of you, for taking the leap. Her cheeks warmed at the compliment. Thank you for opening this door for me. She sipped her latte, eyes flicking to the large windows. Have you told anyone here about our connection, other than the folks in HR? Dylan shook his head. No, it's none of their business, and I didn't want to put extra pressure on you. Eventually, if we... He caught himself, uncertain how to phrase it. If we continue forging this life together, people will figure it out. But for now, let's keep it simple. She appreciated his discretion. Lily let the moment linger, comfortable silence spanning between them as they finished their coffees. In the quiet, she thought about the progress they were making, parted ways with the old cafe job, searching for a new path in Dylan's orbit, building a fragile but hopeful connection for Mia's sake, and perhaps for their own hearts as well. "I need to pick Mia up soon," Lily said, checking her phone. "It's that time already." "Mind if I go with you?" Dylan asked. "We could grab her together, maybe spend time at the park if she's up for it. I'd really like to see her." His expression was tentative, as though he feared intruding. Lily hesitated. I think that might be okay," she said slowly, imagining Mia's excitement. "We haven't yet told her the truth about you, though. But you're seeing her so regularly, I'm worried she'll guess it on her own soon enough." Dylan nodded, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I think we should tell her soon, but I'll follow your lead." They left Harrington Innovations, strolling to Dylan's car in the adjacent parking structure. Lily felt small tugs of anxiety about picking Mia up from school with him, but she also recognized a deeper sense of readiness. Maybe it was time to start bridging the gap between father and daughter, even if the final revelation hadn't been spoken aloud. The school building loomed ahead, a modest structure with playgrounds on either side. Children's laughter carried across the entrance yard. Lily signed in at the front kiosk, and Dylan stood slightly back, letting Lily handle the usual routine. Soon they walked down a hallway lined with bright art projects, searching for Mia's classroom. When they reached the door, Mia burst out with a pair of friends, giggling over some inside joke. Spotting Lily, she waved enthusiastically. Then her eyes settled on Dylan, lighting up with a broad grin. "You came!" she exclaimed. She hopped forward, small backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Lily crouched, steadying the child in a gentle hug. "Hey, sweetie. Surprise. Mr. Dylan wanted to tag along if that's okay." Mia nodded eagerly, then turned to Dylan with wide, curious eyes. "We can go to the park?" she asked, the question brimming with hope. Dylan smiled, warmth radiating from him. "Absolutely," he said. "If your mom says yes?" Lily let out a small laugh, pleased by Mia's excitement. "All right, let's do it. Just for a little while, though. I need to check on a few errands before dinner." The ride to the park was filled with Mia's cheerful chatter about her day. A classmate's birthday, a new library book, how she drew a picture of Mommy and me feeding ducks. She spared only a passing glance at Dylan's fancy car, as if it were no more remarkable than the rest of her daily adventures. Lily envied Mia's pure acceptance of life's twists. At the park, they strolled along a path lined by tall oaks, squirrels darting across the grass. Mia ran ahead, noticing a small group of ducks waddling near a pond's edge. This was a different pond from their usual spot, but she pointed in excitement as if they were old friends. Dylan chased after her with playful steps, leaving Lily to watch from a short distance, heart full. She remembered the months of secrecy, of carrying knowledge about Mia's father alone, never daring to hope that Dylan would step up in the way he had. Now, in the gentle sunshine, she saw them together, laughing, splashing at the water's edge, Dylan guiding Mia away from a slippery rock. It felt like witnessing a new possibility unfold before her eyes, one where Mia's father was not an absent shadow but a present, caring force. Slowly, Lily walked closer to them. Mia glanced back, beckoning Lily with a wave. "Look, Mommy!" she cried. "Mr. Dylan says maybe we can feed them again. Do we have any bread?" Lily smiled, shaking her head. "Not today, honey, but let's just watch them paddle." She knelt, noticing Mia's shoes were nearly soaked from the pond's edge. "Maybe keep a step back so you don't slip." At that, Dylan stood, brushing grass off his pant legs. He exchanged a look with Lily, an unspoken bond passing between them. Mia was so happy, so unguarded. Her acceptance of Dylan as a friend was immediate, but Lily knew they were dancing around the truth, that this man was her father. A secret that hovered like a bridge they needed to cross soon. "Lily," Dylan said quietly, pulling her a few steps aside while Mia remained engrossed with the ducks. I don't want to push, but maybe we should tell her soon. The more time passes, the more I worry she'll hear it accidentally or sense our secrets. I'd rather she hears it gently. From us. Lily looked into his eyes, the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. I agree, she whispered. It's just... How do we do it? Do we sit her down at home or here in the park or... Her voice trailed off, uncertainty flickering. Somewhere she feels safe, Dylan answered, glancing back at Mia. Maybe in your apartment or any familiar place. We can keep it simple. Say that I'm her dad, that I only just found out, and that we love her. Then we listen to how she feels. Lily swallowed, nodding as nerves fluttered. Okay, maybe tomorrow. I think we both need a little time to gather ourselves tonight, but tomorrow we'll tell her. She half expected Dylan to protest, but he merely touched her shoulder in a reassuring gesture. Tomorrow, he echoed. Let's do it together. Their conversation was interrupted by Mia tugging on Lily's hand. Mommy, I'm hungry, she declared, her bright eyes swiveling toward Dylan. Are you hungry too? He chuckled. I could eat, he admitted, glancing at Lily. We can drop by that little diner near your place if you're comfortable with that, unless you have other errands you need to do. Lily weighed the idea. Letting Dylan join them for a casual meal was still a new concept, but the day's events, her HR meeting, the relief that she might have a promising job soon, had put her in a hopeful mood. A quick bite sounds good, she said softly. We can talk more about tomorrow once Mia's in bed tonight. Dylan nodded. Mia clapped her hands, satisfied. Together they left the ducks behind, strolling toward the car under the warm afternoon sun. Lily felt a current of anticipation pulsing beneath the mundane act of grabbing dinner. Because in little steps, showing up at the school, playing in the park, discussing a new job, Dylan was merging into their life as if he belonged there. And maybe he did. Still, Lily's heart thrummed with mixed emotions. She remembered the heartbreak of raising Mia alone, the nights spent wishing for support, the fear of letting anyone get too close. Yet here she was, on the cusp of forging a family she'd thought impossible. The stakes were high. One wrong move could shatter Mia's trust or risk Dylan's own tenuous role in their everyday rhythms. As they reached the parking lot, Mia bounded ahead, climbing into the back seat. Dylan opened the passenger door for Lily and she slid in with a murmured, "Thank you," her mind racing. Tomorrow they would reveal the truth to a bright-eyed little girl who had no idea how much her world was about to change. A swirl of hope and worry churned in Lily's chest, but the presence of Dylan, steadfast and patient, eased her panic. As the car pulled away toward the small diner, Lily glanced back at Mia in the rearview mirror, happily humming a tune. She shifted her gaze to Dylan, who caught her eye and offered a small, reassuring smile. For the first time in ages, Lily found herself breathing into the moment, accepting it without letting her inner fears swallow her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Late evening light bathed the small living room in a soft glow. Mia was tucked under a blanket on the couch, giggling at a cartoon while Lily flitted around the kitchen, tidying dishes from a modest dinner she'd prepared. Dylan leaned against the counter, appreciating the homminess of this place. Though humble, it pulsed with warmth and the quiet echoes of a child's presence. He offered to help dry the dishes, and Lily passed him a towel, a weary but contented half-smile on her face. Her mind raced with thoughts of tomorrow and the looming conversation they had promised to have with Mia. In the background, animated voices rose from the TV, and every now and then, Mia let out a high-pitched laugh. When the last plate was set aside, Lily let out a breath and glanced toward the living room. "She's usually in bed by 8, she said quietly, checking her watch. "So we have another half-hour or so." Dylan nodded, sensing the unspoken meaning. Time was running out on the easy normalcy they shared. Once Mia went to bed, Lily and Dylan would likely talk logistics. how exactly they'd reveal his fatherhood, how they might handle Mia's questions. He felt the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. "Thank you for letting me stay for dinner," he said gently. "I know it's still new for you, me being around." She moved to wipe a countertop. "I'm actually glad you're here," she admitted, almost shyly. "This might be the last evening Mia's life is simple. Tomorrow changes so much, but I can't keep postponing forever." He reached out, touching her hand lightly. "We'll do what's right for her," he murmured. "For both of you." Lily's eyes flicked to his, gratitude mingling with nerves. Then Mia called from the living room, "Mommy, the show's almost done. Can I watch one more?" Lily let out a small laugh, stepping away from Dylan's touch. "We'll see," she replied, heading over to negotiate bedtime. Dylan followed and found himself smiling at the domestic scene. Mia made an adorable argument. "But Mommy, it's the episode with the singing animals." And Lily answered with patient firmness that bedtime was bedtime. To Dylan's mild surprise, Mia turned her gaze on him, pouting theatrically. "What do you think, Mr. Dylan?" she asked. "Don't you want to hear the singing animals too?" He chuckled, momentarily thrown by her request. "Oh, I think your mom's the boss here," he teased gently, shooting Lily a conspiratorial look. "But maybe tomorrow you can show me that episode." Mia considered this, then nodded solemnly. "Okay, tomorrow," she proclaimed, flopping back against the couch cushions in acceptance. Lily suppressed a grin at how quickly Dylan was swept into Mia's negotiations. Soon enough, the cartoon ended, and Lily guided Mia through the familiar bedtime routine: bath, pajamas, and a quick story. Dylan politely hovered by the living room, not wanting to invade that intimate ritual. He heard a muffled lullaby from Mia's bedroom and Lily's soft voice weaving a story about knights and dragons. After a quarter hour, Lily emerged, quietly closing the bedroom door behind her. The apartment suddenly felt still. Dylan turned off the kitchen light at Lily's nod of agreement, leaving them in the gentle glow of a small lamp by the couch. They settled side by side on the worn cushions, a silence stretching between them that was both comfortable and fraught with significance. Lily was the first to speak. "Thank you, by the way," she whispered, tucking her legs beneath her, "for being so patient with her bedtime. I wasn't sure if you'd feel left out." He shook his head. "It's your routine with her. I don't want to barge in. Maybe someday I'll get to read her a bedtime story too, if she's okay with it." She smiled softly. "I'm sure she will be. She likes sharing her favorite things." A beat passed, and her gaze dropped to her hands clasped in her lap. "So, about tomorrow?" His heart twinged at the mention. "Right," he murmured. "I'm ready whenever you are. Do we just wake up, sit her down and say, 'Surprise, Mr. Dylan is actually your dad?'" Lily gave a half laugh tinged with worry. "We can probably do better than that. Maybe after breakfast we pick a calm moment, turn off the TV and just talk to her. We'll keep it direct but gentle. She's 5, so we can't overwhelm her with details. She needs to know you only found out recently and that you're here because you love her." Dylan nodded, reaching for her hand. "And if she cries or freaks out?" Lily exhaled shakily, interlacing her fingers with his. "Then we reassure her. We explain we're still the same people, just with new information. She might have questions. Where have you been? Why weren't you around before? We'll have to handle those carefully." She swallowed, her eyes misting. "I never told her you abandoned her because that wasn't true. But she might feel hurt or confused, realizing you've existed all along." He squeezed her hand softly, guilt weighing on him. "I'll tell her how sorry I am that I didn't know, and that I want to make up for lost time, not by spoiling her, but by being there." A faint tremor passed through Lily, and she lifted her free hand to brush away a tear that escaped. "She's strong, and she's always wanted a dad." Her voice cracked on the last word. I just hope this is the right choice telling her now. I'm terrified of how it'll change her world." Dylan scooted closer, wrapping an arm around Lily's shoulder. She rested her head against him, eyes closed as he let the weight of their fears settle in. Through the thin walls, a distant, muffled sound of a neighbor's TV mingled with the low hum of the apartment's fridge. Everything felt simultaneously mundane and monumental. "You're not alone," he whispered. "We'll face it together. If she's upset at first, we'll handle it with love and honesty. If she's excited, we'll nurture that gently. No matter what, I'm here." She nodded, relief and trepidation in her posture. "Okay," she whispered, straightening to meet his eyes. "Tomorrow morning, then." He offered a soft smile, though the gravity of the moment pressed heavily on him. Glancing at the clock, he realized it was late. "I should probably go," he said quietly. "Let you rest." Lily bit her lip, torn. "Right," she answered. "I need to prepare myself mentally, and I'm sure you do too." She walked him to the door. Before stepping out, he turned, finding a flicker of longing in her expression. "Thank you for dinner, and for letting me be here," he murmured. With a gentle impulse, he leaned in, pressing his lips to her forehead in a delicate, almost tentative gesture. She closed her eyes, standing still as he lingered briefly, inhaling the faint scent of her shampoo and the warmth of her presence. When he drew back, a small, trembling smile crossed her face. "Sleep well," she managed. "You too," he said, his voice hushed. "Tomorrow's a big day." That night, Lily lay awake long after Dylan's car faded into the distance. She stared at the faint patterns of passing headlights on her bedroom ceiling, thoughts tumbling over one another. Mia's peaceful breathing drifted from the other room, a reminder of the gentle innocence that would soon be shattered or transformed. Doubts battered her mind. Would Mia reject Dylan, resent him for not being there earlier? Would she become fearful about her mother's honesty? Yet beneath those swirling fears, a tiny ember of optimism glowed. Mia might be overjoyed, excited to have a father. Lily clung to that hope as she finally succumbed to restless sleep. Dylan spent his own night in silent reflection, perched by the wide windows of his penthouse. The city lights stretched out beneath him, a mosaic of glowing shapes and shifting shadows. Where before that view had signaled triumph, now it felt like a lonely sprawl of achievement that paled beside the importance of family. His thoughts churned. How to explain to a 5-year-old why her father hadn't shown up for her first steps, her first words, her birthdays? He rehearsed gentle phrases in his mind, hoping to find the right balance of truth and reassurance. If only he had known sooner, he might have been there for Mia's every milestone. That remorse clawed at him, but regret changed nothing. Tomorrow he would finally claim the role he had unknowingly neglected. Sometime past midnight, Dylan drafted a brief email to his personal assistant, canceling his morning commitments. Another message went to the child psychologist he had contacted before, explaining that he was about to tell his daughter the truth and might need some follow-up guidance. A final message was simply a reminder to himself. 9 a.m. Lily's apartment. The most important meeting of your life. With that, he switched off his laptop, rubbed his tired eyes, and sank into a restless doze. Dawn seemed to arrive too soon. Morning light filtered through Lily's windows, spilling into the small living room where Mia had turned on a children's program. Lily prepared a quick breakfast, cereal with sliced fruit, a glass of orange juice, while her heart thundered in her chest. She fought the urge to glance at the clock every 30 seconds. At 5 minutes to 9, a gentle knock sounded at the door. Mia looked up from the TV with curiosity, and Lily set her coffee mug down. She smoothed her hair with a trembling hand, then opened the door to find Dylan standing there in a simple collared shirt, looking equally anxious. He stepped inside, offering a small smile to Mia. "Hey, kiddo, Your mom said it was okay if I dropped by this morning. Mia blinked, a grin slowly forming. Are we feeding ducks again? She asked eagerly. Lily swallowed hard. Not right now, sweetie, she said gently. We need to talk about something important. Come sit with us in the living room. The brightness in Mia's eyes dimmed with confusion. She nodded and padded to the couch, hugging her stuffed bunny. Dylan eased into a seat beside Lily, both of them watching Mia's curious expression. The TV droned on, some cartoon animal chattering, but Lily clicked it off, leaving only the hum of the apartment's air conditioner. Mia glanced between them, frowning a little. What's wrong, Mommy? Did I do something bad? Lily's heart squeezed. No, baby, of course not, she said softly, scooting closer so she could hold Mia's small hand. Dylan sat a few feet away, hands clasped in his lap. We just have something to tell you about Mr. Dylan. Mia's gaze flicked over to Dylan, who offered a warm, if slightly shaky, smile. Lily continued in a measured tone. Mia, remember how I said before that your daddy wasn't with us, but that he wasn't a bad person or anything, we just didn't see him anymore? Mia nodded slowly, her forehead creasing in thought. Yes, she whispered. She looked perplexed, as if trying to piece together the puzzle of Lily's words. Well, Lily said, inhaling, I found out that Mr. Dylan is actually your daddy. He's my friend, and we talked, and he only just learned that you're his little girl. Mia's eyes grew round. She looked from Lily to Dylan, then back. You mean he's my real daddy? She asked, voice high-pitched with surprise. Dylan leaned forward, carefully keeping his tone gentle. Yes, sweetheart, he said. I didn't know about you until recently. If I had, I would have come to see you a long time ago. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there before. His voice cracked slightly on the apology. Mia stared at him, silent for a moment. Lily tensed, heart pounding, bracing for tears or confusion. But instead, Mia asked, Why didn't you know? Dylan's shoulders sagged in relief at the directness of the question. Because I was away and busy, he explained softly, and your mommy couldn't reach me. It's a bit complicated, but the main thing is, I'm here now, and I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. Mia absorbed this. Lily felt the seconds stretch out in a taut wire of anticipation. Then, to her astonishment, Mia crawled over to Dylan, studying him with childlike curiosity. So, you're my daddy, she said, as though testing the word. Does that mean you love me? A wave of emotion hit Dylan. His eyes misted. Absolutely, he whispered, voice trembling. From the moment I saw you, I loved you, even before I knew you were my daughter. And now that I do know, I love you even more. Mia blinked, her lower lip quivering. Lily held her breath, unsure if the child would burst into tears. But Mia exhaled a shaky breath. And then, very cautiously, she slipped her arms around Dylan's neck in a small hug. Dylan's eyes closed, tears escaping as he wrapped his arms around her gently. Lily clapped a hand over her mouth, tears brimming in her own eyes. The emotional weight of it all crashed upon her. This was the moment she had dreaded and longed for in equal measure. Her daughter, hugging the father she had never known. Relief, guilt, sadness, and an indescribable joy all tangled within her. Dylan stroked Mia's hair, pressing his cheek against her soft curls. I'm sorry, Mia, he whispered again. I'll never leave you if I can help it. I promise. Mia, confused but seemingly comforted, pulled back slightly. But I only called you Mr. Dylan before, she murmured, sniffing. Do I call you Daddy now? Dylan smiled, tears still shining in his eyes. If you want to, he said, glancing at Lily for reassurance. She nodded, a tremor of a smile on her lips. You can call me Dylan, or Dad, or Daddy, whatever feels right to you. Mia looked thoughtful. Daddy, she repeated, testing the sound. Then, like a bashful secret, she asked, Do you live far away? Will you come see me a lot? This time, Lily jumped in, placing a hand on Mia's knee. "He'll come by whenever he can. We'll figure out a schedule and everything. But yes, sweetie, he wants to see you often." Mia's eyes flicked between them. Her small chin trembled as she asked a final question. "Is he gonna live with us, Mommy?" A piercing wave of uncertainty rolled through Lily. She shot Dylan a quick, startled glance. "That's something we have to figure out," Lily answered carefully, heart fluttering. "But for now, we'll just spend more time together, okay?" Mia seemed to accept that answer for the moment. She leaned against Dylan's shoulder, and he held her close, meeting Lily's eyes across the space. It was a moment steeped in tentative relief. No meltdown, no fearful withdrawal, only the delicate formation of a new bond. Eventually, Mia asked if they could watch the singing animal episode again, now that the serious talk was over. Lily chuckled, wiping a tear, and Dylan nodded enthusiastically, clearly willing to do anything Mia wanted. As Lily turned on the show, she sank onto the couch, one arm draped around Mia and the other resting lightly against Dylan's shoulder. The cartoon characters burst into song on the screen. Mia hummed along, enraptured by this colorful world. But for Lily and Dylan, the melody was secondary to the quiet symphony of family unfolding right there on the couch, a beginning that might rewrite all their old fears into a hopeful tomorrow. By midday, warmth bathed every corner of Lily's modest apartment. Rays of sunshine streamed across the floor where Mia now played with a collection of crayons and paper, humming to herself. On any other morning, Lily might have been eager to run errands or finalize her job applications, but not today. Today, everything felt different. She and Dylan sat at the small kitchen table, sharing a contemplative silence. The big revelation had come, and Mia's reaction, while emotional, had been far less fraught than either of them feared. She wasn't crying, she wasn't angry. Instead, she seemed to have accepted that Dylan was Daddy, weaving him seamlessly into her imaginative world with a child's open-hearted resilience. Still, Lily could tell that underneath Mia's bright chatter, questions lingered. The 5-year-old mind might take days or weeks to process the idea that her father was here after being absent for so long. Lily exchanged a look with Dylan, a silent acknowledgement that their challenges had only begun. Leaning forward, Dylan spoke softly, mindful of the child playing just a few steps away. "How are you feeling?" he asked. His hand found Lily's atop the table. She let out a shaky breath. "Relieved, mostly. Maybe a little numb. I spent years imagining this moment, telling her you were her father, and it always seemed like a huge, dramatic turning point. But she took it in stride." She paused, glancing toward Mia. "I'm sure she'll have more questions in the days to come." Dylan squeezed Lily's hand gently. "We'll handle them, one at a time." His gaze flicked to Mia, a tender protectiveness in his expression. "She's incredible," he murmured, "brave and sweet and bright. It makes me realize all the moments I missed." A pang of sorrow passed between them, years lost, memories that couldn't be recovered. Lily's eyes glistened, but she forced a small smile. "No use dwelling on that now," she said softly. "You're here, and we move forward." He nodded, determination lighting his features. "I want her to feel secure in this. That means being consistent, showing up. Maybe we can work out a schedule, times I can pick her up from school, or watch her so you're not juggling everything alone." Her chest tightened with a mixture of gratitude and anxiety. "I'd like that," she admitted, "though we'll have to see how things go with the new job if I'm hired. My schedule might change." Dylan's face lit with cautious optimism. "Right. The interview. Regina said they'd finalize the process soon. How do you feel about it?" Lily glanced at Mia's scattered crayons, remembering the uncertain swirl of her future. "Nervous, but hopeful," she replied. "I'm not used to corporate interviews, but it would be so good to have a full-time position with benefits." I can't keep living on the edge, especially now that you're in the picture and Mia's getting older." He nodded thoughtfully. "If you land the position, it won't just be a job, it'll be a career path. That said, if you decide it's not right for you, we'll find something else. I don't want you to feel you have only one option." Her eyes met his, earnestness shining there. "I appreciate that," she murmured. A breath of relief filled her chest. Perhaps for the first time in her adult life, she felt as though she had a genuine partner in her corner. Just then, Mia scrambled up, crayons clutched in her small hands. She bounded over, bright-eyed. "Daddy, Mommy, look!" she exclaimed, thrusting forward a piece of paper covered in childlike swirls. "This is our family. I drew you and me and Mommy." Dylan accepted the drawing reverently, his heart swelling at the sight. In colorful scribbles, Mia had depicted 3 figures holding hands under a giant sun, each with big smiles. Lily's figure had long hair, Dylan's a swirl of black crayon that might represent his short, dark hair, and Mia stood between them. Above their heads, a single line read, "Faml," in shaky letters, Mia's attempt at spelling family. Lily felt her throat tighten. She cupped Mia's cheek with one hand. "That's beautiful, honey," she said, voice thick with emotion. "You're such a talented artist." Mia giggled, beaming at the praise. Then she looked at Dylan, serious for a moment. "Daddy, can we put it on the fridge?" she asked. "That's where Mommy puts my best pictures." Dylan's eyes misted. "Of course," he whispered. "Let's do that right now." He stood, letting Mia lead him to the small kitchen area where magnets clung to the fridge door. Together they found a spot for the drawing, Mia proudly smoothing the edges flat. Lily joined them, her heart near bursting at the simple scene. Before she could speak, Mia's attention darted to her stuffed bunny on the couch. "Can we go outside and play later?" she asked, glancing hopefully between the 2 adults. Lily brushed a hand through Mia's hair. "Sure, sweetie, but let's eat lunch first. Then maybe a short walk." She cast Dylan a questioning glance. "Unless you have somewhere else you need to be?" He smiled. "I cleared my schedule for today." Turning to Mia, he added, "I'm yours, kiddo. Just say the word." Mia grinned wide, the glimmer in her eyes a direct reflection of her father's unwavering attention. She raced back to gather her bunny, already spinning into imaginary games. Lily and Dylan watched her, an unspoken understanding that this dynamic, though joyful, was new and fragile. Lunchtime found them gathered around a simple meal of sandwiches and fruit. Mia talked non-stop about her classmates, the new father-daughter dynamic apparently fueling her excitement. At times, she paused to stare at Dylan, as if double-checking he was really there. He'd meet her gaze with a reassuring nod or a playful wink, eliciting more of her giggles. After lunch, they strolled outside, hand in hand with Mia swinging between them, a scene Lily once thought existed only in her quiet daydreams. Neighbors they passed offered curious smiles. Most had never seen Dylan around. Lily, feeling a slight self-consciousness, did her best to exude calm. This was their family now, in some shape or form. At the small neighborhood park, Mia climbed the jungle gym, calling for Dylan to watch. He stood near, cheering her on. Lily remained at a slight distance on a bench, soaking in the sight, father and daughter forging a bond, each moment a puzzle piece linking them together. Her phone buzzed quietly, an unknown number. She checked it and recognized the area code for Harrington Innovations. Heart pounding, she answered. "Hello?" "Hi, Lily. This is Regina from Harrington Innovations," came the friendly voice. "I hope it's not a bad time." Lily's stomach flipped. "Not at all," she said, eyeing Dylan and Mia in the distance. "How are you?" "Good. I just wanted to let you know the hiring manager was impressed with your background. We'd like to schedule your formal interview for the events coordinator position early next week. Are you available Monday morning?" Relief and excitement coursed through Lily. She glanced at Dylan's encouraging face from afar. "Yes, Monday works. Thank you so much for the opportunity." "Great. I'll email you the details. Looking forward to seeing you then, Regina replied. Ending the call, Lily exhaled a giddy breath. A formal interview was a real chance at stability. She stood and waved Dylan over, quietly sharing the news. His grin was immediate, wrapping her in a spontaneous hug. Mia hopped around them curiously, asking, "What happened? Did something good happen, Mommy?" Lily patted Mia's head. "Yes, baby, I have a job interview on Monday. It's a really important one." Mia's eyes widened. "Does that mean you'll get a new place to work?" she asked. "You won't come home late anymore?" "Hopefully it means better hours," Lily said with a laugh. She glanced at Dylan, heart swelling with gratitude that she no longer had to navigate these changes alone. They spent another hour at the park, letting Mia burn off energy while Lily and Dylan talked quietly about next steps. Dylan suggested they celebrate over dinner, but Lily insisted on something small at her apartment, not wanting to overwhelm Mia or make a big fuss. As they headed back home, a comfortable hush settled between them, each secure in the knowledge that life was moving forward in a promising direction. That evening, after Mia's bedtime routine, Lily found herself perched on the couch, flipping through the interview packet Regina had emailed. Dylan sat beside her, occasionally offering a gentle comment or piece of advice from his own hiring perspective, though he was careful not to overshadow her or treat her like she was incapable. "You'll do great," he reassured, noticing her anxious frown as she studied the job requirements. "They're looking for someone with people skills, attention to detail, and the ability to handle juggling multiple tasks at once. That's basically what you did every day at the cafe, plus more." A soft laugh escaped her. "True," she admitted, "but I'm still intimidated by the corporate environment. I don't speak fancy business jargon." "You don't need to," he countered gently. "Honest communication and a knack for staying organized are more valuable than buzzwords. If you show them how adaptable you are, that'll speak volumes." She turned to face him more fully, the distance between them on the couch just a few inches. "Thank you," she said, voice quiet. "It means a lot, having you encourage me." Something in her eyes told Dylan that her gratitude ran deeper than the job. He felt it too, the blossoming closeness that transcended their roles as co-parents. They were tethered by a shared devotion to Mia and, increasingly, by a mutual respect for each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. He reached out, tucking a strand of her hair behind her ear. The gesture sent a ripple of warmth through Lily's chest. In a hush, she leaned in, lips meeting his in a soft, tentative kiss. For a fleeting moment, the months of tension, unspoken longing, and new beginnings found a gentle outlet bridging the gap between them. When they pulled back, both wore timid smiles. Lily's cheeks glowed, and Dylan's breathing caught. Neither needed to fill the silence with confessions, though unspoken, the promise of deeper feelings was clear. A murmur from Mia's room cut through the hush, and Lily stood abruptly, checking if her daughter was awake. Mia had merely shifted in her sleep, hugging her stuffed bunny. Lily returned to the living room, exhaling with relief. She cast Dylan a small, self-conscious grin. "We should maybe not rush anything," she whispered, glancing at the closed bedroom door. "Mia's just getting used to having you as a dad. I don't want to confuse her by throwing romantic complications in." Dylan nodded, understanding. "Of course," he said softly. "We'll go slowly, one step at a time. I don't want to push anything that could overwhelm either of you." She sank back onto the couch, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you. Let's focus on helping Mia adjust and making sure she feels safe." They lingered in companionable quiet, the tension between them pleasant but controlled. Tomorrow, the world would keep spinning. Mia's new routine with her dad in the picture, Lily's interview looming, Dylan's responsibilities at Harrington Innovations. But tonight, in that hush of a modest apartment lit by a single lamp, they savored the fragile happiness forging among them. Eventually, Dylan rose, brushing a kiss across Lily's temple. "I'll see you both tomorrow," he whispered. We can figure out if Mia wants me to pick her up from school or something. Just let me know." Lily walked him to the door, gratitude and a shimmering hope evident in her eyes. "Thanks for everything," she said, voice hushed. "We'll talk in the morning." She closed the door gently behind him, heart pounding from the mixture of relief and budding love. As she returned to the living room, she glanced at the fridge where Mia's crayon drawing hung, a trio of smiling figures labeled family. It wasn't perfect spelling, just as their little family wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Early Monday sunlight slanted through the curtains of Lily's living room, illuminating the soft hum of morning rituals. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully arranging crayons for a new drawing. Meanwhile, Lily tugged on the hem of her blazer, nerves jittering through her stomach. Today was the day of her formal interview at Harrington Innovations, the day that, if all went well, might reshape her professional future. Dylan, having arrived a few minutes earlier, sipped a cup of coffee as he glanced over a small stack of papers Lily had prepared. They outlined her references, notes on her relevant experience, and reminders of key points she wanted to emphasize. Each sheet bore neatly organized highlights, proof of how serious she was about transitioning into this new role. "You've done your homework," he observed with a smile, sliding the papers back into a folder. "You'll be more prepared than half the candidates they see." Lily tried to return his smile, but her heart pounded. "I just really want this," she admitted, adjusting the blazer's collar again. "Not only for me, but for Mia. A stable job, financial security, benefits. It's everything I've hoped for." "It'll be yours," Dylan assured. "Go in and show them who you are." Then, glancing at Mia, "And I can help with morning school drop-off, if that's okay." Mia's ears perked. "You can drive me in your big car?" she asked, eyes shining with excitement. She still sometimes called him Mr. Dylan, but more and more, Daddy was weaving itself into her vocabulary. Lily could tell it made Dylan's face light up each time. Lily hesitated, reluctant to disrupt Mia's routine. Yet the job interview beckoned. She exhaled, giving Dylan a nod. "That would be a huge help. I have to leave soon to be at HR by 9, but Mia doesn't start class until 8:30. If you're comfortable dropping her off." A broad, reassuring grin spread across Dylan's face. "I'd love to. We can chat about singing animals on the ride." He winked at Mia, who giggled in delight. "All right, I'm sold," Lily said softly. She crouched beside Mia, brushing the child's hair. "I have to go to my interview, sweetie, so Daddy will take you to school today. Be good, okay?" Mia nodded, proud of the newfound arrangement. "Okay, Mommy. Good luck at your new job." Warmth coursed through Lily at those words. She hugged Mia tight, smoothing the child's hair with gentle fingers. Then she stood, grabbed her folder and braced herself with one final breath. Dylan followed her to the door, carrying his coffee mug. "You've got this," he said, voice low as Mia was out of earshot in the living room. "Knock 'em dead." She mustered a tremulous smile, heart pounding both from nerves and a budding sense of partnership she'd never experienced before. "Thank you. I'll text you as soon as it's done." Exchanging a soft look, they parted ways. Lily heading down the worn apartment stairs, Dylan returning to help Mia gather her backpack. Behind the swirling anxiety about the interview lay a comforting reality. She no longer faced life's hurdles alone. 30 minutes later, Lily stepped off the elevator at Harrington Innovations, heart hammering in her chest. Though she'd visited for her initial discussion, this time felt weightier. She wore professional slacks, her hair pinned neatly, and carried the tidy folder of references under her arm. A receptionist directed her to a nearby lounge area where 2 other candidates waited. She took a seat, smoothing out non-existent wrinkles on her blazer. "You can do this," she reminded herself. "This is for Mia. For you. For a stable future." Soon, Regina, the friendly HR rep, appeared, greeting Lily with a smile. Glad you could make it. Ready? Lily nodded, her pulse a drumbeat of anticipation. Regina guided her through a hallway into a boardroom with floor-to-ceiling windows. Seated at the table were two members of the events division, plus a middle-aged man introduced as the department director. They exchanged polite handshakes, and Lily settled into a chair, adrenaline sparking. The interview commenced. At first, they asked typical questions. Could Lily describe a challenging work situation and how she handled it? How did she prioritize tasks when short on time? Lily spoke candidly about her years at the cafe, training unprepared staff, juggling inventory mistakes mid-rush, calming frustrated customers. She avoided corporate jargon, focusing instead on how she adapted swiftly and worked under pressure. They asked scenario-based questions, and Lily's mind churned with possibilities. If a client cancels an event last minute, how would she reorganize resources? If two important seminars overlap, how would she ensure each gets appropriate attention? Lily found that her experiences, though informal, gave her a knack for troubleshooting. She described the steps she'd take, layering confidence into each answer. At one point, the department director said, "You've never worked in a corporate environment before, correct? Why do you think you'll succeed here?" Lily inhaled, forcing steadiness in her voice. "Because handling a rush of 50 impatient customers in a cafe can be as demanding as managing an event for 200 corporate attendees," she explained. "I learned to think on my feet, and I have a passion for making sure people's experiences run smoothly. I may not have the exact background you usually see, but I'm flexible and motivated." The director leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. Regina, seated to the side, offered Lily an encouraging nod. Lily felt a flicker of hope. Her sincerity seemed to be hitting the right note. The interview lasted just under an hour. By its end, Lily's nerves were frayed, but she maintained composure, shaking hands politely. Regina escorted her back to the lounge, promising Lily they'd be in touch soon. "Probably within a couple of days," Regina added. Outside in the corridor, Lily exhaled sharply, relief and tension swirling. "I survived. I did my best." She stepped into the elevator, checking her phone. A message from Dylan. "Mia safely dropped at school. She asked if you got the job yet. Let me know how it went." Smiling to herself, Lily replied, "Just finished. Went okay, I think. We'll call you soon." Meanwhile, across town, Dylan found himself in a new routine, heading to Harrington Innovations after dropping Mia at school. The child's excited chatter still echoed in his mind. She had peppered him with questions about how people know what job to do at your big building and whether she could see his office someday. Dylan's chest warmed at her curiosity. The fatherly role felt both surreal and deeply natural. Arriving at his office suite, he passed a few executives who greeted him with deference. He nodded absently, his mind lingering on Lily. He navigated a short meeting with his operations team, then found a moment of quiet to check his phone. The message from Lily made his lips quirk in a grin. She'd done it, survived the interview. He tapped a quick reply of encouragement, setting aside his tasks until he heard from her. Just after midday, Lily stepped off a bus near Mia's school to wait for her daughter's half-day dismissal. The radiant autumn sun cast crisp shadows on the sidewalk as parents gathered. Her phone buzzed again, this time Regina's number. Stomach lurching, Lily answered tentatively. "Hello?" "It's Regina," came the cheerful tone. The team was quite impressed. They'd like to offer you the events coordinator position, pending a final background check and references. Are you still interested? Lily almost forgot to breathe. Yes, absolutely, she managed, pressing a hand to her racing heart. Thank you so much. Regina laughed lightly. Congratulations, Lily. I'll send the official offer letter by email today. Once everything's finalized, we can schedule your start date. Likely in 2 weeks, if that's acceptable. That's perfect, Lily said, voice trembling. I can't thank you enough. She hung up just as the bell rang, releasing a stream of energetic kids from the school doors. Within seconds, Mia's familiar figure emerged, bounding toward Lily with a broad smile. Lily scooped her daughter into a hug, unable to contain her glee. "Mommy, you're so happy," Mia exclaimed, giggling as Lily spun her in a circle. "I am happy," Lily beamed, setting Mia down gently. "I got the job, baby. A new, good job." Mia squealed in excitement, hugging Lily again. "Daddy said you would do great," she announced, as though it were the most natural comment in the world. Lily's heart swelled at hearing Mia call Dylan Daddy so easily now. "Yes," Lily whispered, tears prickling at her eyes. He was right. She guided Mia by the hand, phone clutched in the other as she texted Dylan the good news. Within seconds, his jubilant reply flashed across the screen. "That's incredible. So proud of you. Let's celebrate tonight. Whatever you and Mia want." Lily smiled at Mia, her chest brimming with a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in years. Not only had she secured a stable position that could anchor their lives, but she had done so while forging a new family bond with Dylan. The uncertainties remained: co-parenting logistics, balancing her career, gently evolving her closeness with Dylan, but this step brought them all one leap closer to a future free from old shadows. That evening, the little apartment overflowed with cheerful chaos. Dylan arrived with takeout from a family-friendly restaurant, packing a paper bag of burgers, fries, and milkshakes. Mia squealed at the sight of thick chocolate shakes bouncing around the living room. Lily teased Dylan for overdoing it, but her grin told him she appreciated the spoiling. They crowded around the small table, forming a circle that reflected how far they'd come. Mia insisted on telling them about her entire day: story time, recess games, the sticker she earned for helping a friend. Lily added her own news, describing how the official job offer would come by email, how the salary would stabilize her budget, and that she'd likely start in 2 weeks. "Now we can get rid of this old couch, maybe," Lily joked, patting the worn cushions behind her. "It squeaks every time someone sits." Mia giggled. "It squeaks even if my bunny sits," she said, bursting into peals of laughter. Dylan laughed along, but his expression softened as he observed Lily. "You deserve all the comfort in the world," he said quietly. Then, to Mia's delight, he added, "We'll pick out a new couch that's big enough for all of us to fit when we watch cartoons, right?" Mia's eyes lit up. "Yes! Then Daddy can watch the singing animals too, and we won't be squished." Hearing the affectionate ease with which Mia used Daddy, Lily's heart twisted with gratitude. She remembered the loneliness of the past, raising Mia on her own, hiding truths to shield them both from heartbreak. Now the child's world was expanding. Lily's was too. She locked eyes with Dylan, the shared understanding loud in the unspoken hush that lingered after Mia's exclamation. Later, once Mia was in pajamas, they curled up on that squeaky old couch to watch the singing animal episode for the umpteenth time. Mia nestled between them, her stuffed bunny perched on her lap. Dylan's arm brushed Lily's, a subtle connection that felt both comforting and electric. At the show's closing credits, Mia dozed off, lulled by warm milk and the day's excitement. Dylan scooped the sleepy child into his arms, carrying her to her bedroom. Lily followed, gently tucking the blanket around Mia, her heart melting at the tender care Dylan showed. He pressed a light kiss to Mia's forehead, whispering a soft good night. In that moment, Lily felt tears threaten, joyful tears, realizing how deeply Dylan had embraced fatherhood. Returning to the living room, they stood in a gentle hush. Lily set the remote aside, searching Dylan's face. He reached out, his hand warm on her shoulder. "Today was perfect," he said, voice hushed to avoid waking Mia. "You got the job? Mia's happy. We're all together." She nodded, tears glinting in her eyes. "It still feels surreal," she confessed, "to have you here, part of everything. I spent so long believing I had to handle life alone." He cupped her cheek, brushing away a single tear. "Never again," he promised. voice trembling with sincerity. "We'll face every hurdle as a team. Your new job, Mia's growth, whatever challenges come." He paused, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I love both of you." Lily's breath caught. Slowly, she pressed her forehead to his, letting the quiet admission wash over her. I'm starting to believe we can build a real future," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so grateful, Dylan." They lingered in that soft embrace, the old couch squeaking as they sank onto it together. Outside, the city lights cast faint patterns across the walls, but the small apartment felt worlds away from the corporate demands. Their hush was broken only by Mia's faint murmur in the next room, drifting in peaceful dreams. No official plan spelled out exactly how their family would evolve, or how swiftly they'd integrate Dylan's life into Lily's. Yet a promise bound them. They'd move forward step by step, anchored by love, honesty, and the unshakable bond forged through the little girl who had brought them together. In the gentle glow of a solitary lamp, Dylan and Lily shared a tender, lingering kiss. This time not apologetic or rushed, but filled with the steady certainty that they were no longer dancing around possibility. Their story, once scattered by secrets and missed chances, now coalesced into a future bright with shared hope. And on the fridge door, Mia's crayon drawing labeled "Family" bore silent witness to this new chapter, where a father, a mother, and a wide-eyed child formed a family beyond the constraints of perfection. In its place stood a tapestry of second chances, small joys, and an unwavering promise that love can bridge even the greatest divides. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.